Chapter 828. It was very hot in the south in July. Qin Yining wore a light summer dress and sat sideways in front of Pang Xiao. Pang Xiao held the reins with one hand and held an oil paper umbrella with the other to shade Qin Yining from the sun. It was rainy all the way back, but they didn't feel hot. Pang Xiao wrapped Qin Yining tightly with a cloak and didn't let her get wet at all. Although they didn't travel day and night, they still rushed back at the fastest speed. However, perhaps because Qin Yining was in a good mood, the weather finally began to clear up. They didn't have any pursuers on their way back, so everything went smoothly. Pang Xiao was in a good mood and simply took Qin Yining to enjoy the scenery. Along the way, she would take Qin Yining to experience all the beautiful things, delicious things, and fun things. Have you settled everyone in the family? Don't worry. Mr. Xie and Mr. Su are both here. Both sides will definitely be settled. Pang Xiao lowered her head and kissed Qin Yining's temples. I've tidied up the Qin mansion and arranged for old Madam and the others to return to the Qin mansion. As for my maternal grandparents and my mother, I arranged for them to live in a house not far from the Qin mansion. In fact, if the two families got along well, it would be the best choice for everyone to live in the Qin mansion. It would be convenient for them to dispatch and protect them. However, this time, the Yao clan drove them away when the family Qin was in the most difficult situation. Even if the family Qin didn't say anything, they weren't fools. It was impossible for them not to resent the Pang family in their hearts. Thinking of this, Pang Xiao was worried and didn't know what to do. If his father-in-law was at home, he would have someone who could reason with him. However, his father-in-law wasn't here. What could he explain to Qin Yining's two uncles? He was even more afraid that the Sun clan would hold a grudge against his mother-in-law. Pang Xiao frowned helplessly. He had always been a person who did not show his emotions on his face, but now he looked worried. Qin Yining could hear Pang Xiao's helpless tone. He smiled and comforted her. Don't think too much. I'll make the arrangements when we get back. It's better for a family to live together. Pang Xiao forced a smile and said, Not for the time being. I'm afraid that if we really live together, with my mother's personality, she will make my mother-in-law angry. Qin Yining was deep in thought. His father wasn't at home, and the smartest and most capable person wasn't around. Whatever he did, his hands were tied. Qin Yining sighed. Don't sigh. I'll settle this matter properly. When I get back, I'll have a good talk with my mother. Even if they want to live together, my mother has to pluck the fish head first. There's no reason for the aggrieved party to compromise. Qin Yining didn't say much after hearing this. He just smiled and said, You can make the arrangements. Qin Yining had learned from his mistakes. He wouldn't forcefully make any arrangements for Yao Chenggu and the Yao clan now. No matter what she did, she would always be wrong in front of those who didn't like her. Qin Yining and Pang Xiao chatted along the way. Soon, the towering walls of the old capital appeared in front of their eyes. Huzi and the others who were following the two from a distance relaxed. They had been tense all the way, afraid that someone would suddenly appear and hurt Pang Xiao and Qin Yining. Now that they were finally in their own territory, even if there was someone who didn't have eyes and came to make trouble, they could crush them with a single finger. Wang Yi, we won't enter the city, right? Pang Xiao said, Huzi, take 2 people and follow us. The rest of you, go back to the military camp and check. If anything happens, come back to me immediately. Yes. Everyone cupped their hands and complied. Only 2 people and Huzi were left behind to follow behind Pang Xiao from a distance. The remaining nearly 100 people lined up neatly and urged their horses to gallop in the direction of the military camp. Soon, their figures disappeared in a cloud of dust. Pang Xiao smiled and said, My excuse for going out this time was to take some people to see if the bandits in the nearby area showed any signs of revival. However, this excuse was a bit rushed. If a group of people entered the city together, I'm afraid it would attract attention from all sides. Qin Yining smiled and nodded. I know you know what to do. Just make the arrangements. After entering the city, Pang Xiao dismounted from her horse and threw the reins to Huzi, who was following behind her. She held Qin Yining's hand and walked slowly towards Qin's mansion. Qin Yining's beautiful eyes looked at the surrounding streets and scenery. Nothing had changed much here, But this time, she felt like she had survived a disaster. Her heart was filled with emotions. However, Qin Yining was not a person who was good at acting spoiled. She did not want to tell Pang Xiao about her fragile feelings. Therefore, Pang Xiao only saw Qin Yining's beautiful side profile with a smile. Sister E, what are you smiling about? Nothing. I'm just happy that I can come back, Qin Yining said. Let's go back to our mansion first. We'll go to Qin's mansion after we settle down. After all, she was the daughter-in-law of the Pang family. If she did not greet her own family first and went to her mother's house as soon as she came back, the Yao clan would have more reasons to criticize her in the future. She was not afraid of the Yao clan. She just felt tired of such things happening all the time. Pang Xiao said, "That's good. Let's go back to the mansion and change clothes before going to mother-in-law's house. At that time, we can tell everyone the good news that father-in-law is still alive." That's right. Let's settle down at home first, and then we can go to my house. I don't know how old Madam is doing. Although old Madam usually acts a little biased, in her heart, my father is her biggest treasure. I'm really afraid that something will happen to old Madam. Of course, she is now pregnant. People will get old, get sick, and die. However, if something happens to old Madam while my father is in this kind of situation, my father will blame himself for the rest of his life. That's right. Father-in-law is a filial son. Pang Xiao nodded. Qin Yining said again, "We didn't see Annie Chow's appearance when she came back. Also, my mother's illness was extremely dangerous." Qin Yining had already told Pang Xiao about this matter on the way. However, when he thought about it, he still sighed with emotion. Pang Xiao remembered Qin Yining saying that when the mourning hall was set up at home, there was no one to offer condolences. Only Ji Ziyu dared to come. Later, Li Qiqian took away the tiger tally. Pang Xiao's smile faded. These things would come to an end sooner or later. Pang Xiao had been living in the military camp these days. He was used to suffering, so he was not very particular about it. Moreover, there was Qin's mansion in the area. Pang Xiao didn't buy a big house in advance. The Wang's mansion, where Yao Qinggu, Yao clan, and Madame Ma lived, was actually an ordinary courtyard with 2 courtyards. It was a street away from Qin's mansion, so it was much shabbier in comparison. Qin Yining followed Pang Xiao to the gate of Qin's mansion. Huzi went forward and knocked on the door. Soon, someone answered the door. When they came out, it was Pang Xiao and Huzi. The person on the door shouted in surprise, "Wang Yi is back." "Yes, open the door quickly. Go inside and tell Old Master, Old Madam, and Madam Dowager," the beard said with a smile. The doorman nodded hurriedly, opened the door for them, and limped into the mansion. Pang Xiao explained to Qin Yining, "The servants and guard in the mansion are all disabled people who were left behind in the war. These people didn't get much pension at that time. Almost all of them are disabled. It may be inconvenient for them to go back to their hometown to farm. They will be a burden to their families. After thinking about it, I found a group of people like them to work in our mansion. I can guarantee their character. Your arrangement is very good." Qin Yining said with a smile, "You are the commander-in-chief and have been leading troops for many years. You must love your soldiers. But our mansion is small. How many people can it accommodate?" Pang Xiao said with a smile, "Yes, I can help as many as I can. I can't watch them go back to their hometown and starve to death." Qin Yining nodded and said, "You also know that I have a lot of factories. Although these people can't do complicated things, they can at least watch over the door. Or they can go to my farm and do some simple farm work. It's not impossible for them to raise chickens and pigs. Anyway, no matter what, they can always find another place to live. I won't let them starve to death. If you have such people, you can tell me after confirming that there is no problem. I will contact Master Zhong." The two of them walked into the mansion while talking. Not only Pang Xiao felt warm and proud, but the beard and the others behind him also felt very grateful for a moment. Huzi said with a smile, "It's our blessing that the princess has such a kind heart." "Yes, yes." Hearing this, the servants of the mansion also nodded. They were all disabled more or less, and their family situation was not good. They had already burned incense to the high heaven to be able to serve in Pang Xiao's house. Now, they listened to the princess's words. For a moment, All kinds of feelings welled up in their hearts. Some of the people with shallow eye sockets were so moved that their noses turned sour. It was true that the war was cruel. These years, there had been continuous wars. They had seen too many brothers who had lost their arms and legs and had been reduced to beggars and starved to death. If they followed Prince Zhongshuan, not only would they not eat their food, but Wang Yi would also take them out to make money. If he commanded them calmly, they would even have a higher chance of winning the war. Now Wang Yi still cared about their lives after they stopped being soldiers. It was really good to be able to follow Wang Yi. Qin Yining smiled. He was in a good mood when he saw these people's reactions. At this time, they had already walked to the Chuehua gate. The old woman guarding the gate had already heard that Pang Xiao and Qin Yining had returned. She had been waiting here for a long time. When she saw them, she bowed deeply. Greetings to Wang Yi, princess. Forget it. We're old master and old madam now. Qin Yining asked. Princess, old master, old madam, and old madam are now in the main room. Qin Yining nodded. I know. Then he took the lead to walk to the main room. Seeing that Qin Yining didn't have any difficult expression, Pang Xiao secretly sighed with relief in his heart. He knew that Qin Yining had suffered a lot of grievances. He had also talked about the Yao clan behind their backs several times. However, on one side was his family, and on the other side was Qin Yining. He still hoped that they could coexist peacefully. However, the more Qin Yining made concessions, the more Pang Xiao couldn't let Qin Yining be wronged. He strode to catch up with Qin Yining. He took her hand and said with a smile, I'm also going to pay my respects. The two of them walked through the hall and into the backyard in a few steps. They walked straight to the main room on the stone brick road with new moss. Chapter 829. Qin Yining couldn't help but look at the woman a few more times. She was dressed like a young miss from a large family, but her attentive attitude was like that of a servant girl. It made it hard for people to determine her identity. However, she was indeed an extremely beautiful girl. Her beautiful eyes were filled with affection, and her red lips were smiling. Her gaze was soft and full of longing as it fell on Pang Xiao's body. She didn't conceal her adoration at all. It was likely that any man who was gazed at with such admiration by such a beautiful girl would be able to melt steel. Qin Yining curled his lips in amusement. He raised his head to look at Pang Xiao and then walked forward. Pang Xiao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He strode forward to grab Qin Yining's hand and whispered in her ear, Sister E, I'll tell you what happened later. Qin Yining raised an eyebrow. Just as he was about to speak, the woman gracefully walked closer. She raised her head to look at Pang Xiao and said tenderly, Wang Yi, you've worked hard. Look at how tired you are. I've already prepared hot water. Wang Yi, you could take a good bath later to relieve your fatigue. She completely ignored Qin Yining and acted as though she was the mistress of this place. Qin Yining let go of Pang Xiao's hand again and walked around the beauty to the stairs. Pang Xiao's hands were empty and his heart was also empty. He couldn't help but say angrily, Even the guest compound can't accommodate you? Then go home. The woman's face instantly paled and her beautiful eyes filled with tears. Wang Yi, don't be angry. It was old madam who allowed me to come out. I don't have any other intentions. Wang Yi, if you're afraid that Wang Fei won't like it, I'll do my best not to appear in front of Wang Fei. Today, I came because old madam ordered me to come. Pang Xiao was furious when he heard this. He had just been thinking that he could not let the person who was wronged continue to be wronged. In the blink of an eye, his own mother had created such a mess. Sister Yi's mood had just improved a bit. When she entered the door, she saw this thing swaying in front of her. What was the meaning of this? Pang Xiao walked around the woman and caught up to Qin Yining in 2 steps. This time, he pulled her into his arms and domineeringly wrapped his arms around her shoulders so that she couldn't shake him off. Qin Yining's body twisted and he said in a low voice, "Don't make a fuss. We have to go inside to pay our respects." Pang Xiao said with a sullen face, "I didn't say that I wouldn't pay my respects." With Pang 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 Xiao, Pang Pang Pang, and Pang Pang Xiao, and Pang 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 Pang. Pang 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 Pang, Pang Pang. Pang Pang Pang, Pan 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 Pang, Pan Pan Pang Pang, tea, pan, 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 pang, pang. When they entered the room, the first thing they saw was a screen with 8 immortals crossing the sea. In the corner of the room, there was a small table with bony legs tied around the waist. There were fresh flowers in full bloom in the flower goblets. There was a faint fragrance in the air, which seemed to be mixed with the refreshing smell of mint incense. A servant girl walked around the screen to pass the message. Then, she came forward and gestured for them to enter. Qin Yining walked towards the inner room. Pang Xiao was one step ahead of her. His long legs strode forward, and he quickly entered the room. Qin Yining did not wait to enter. She heard Pang Xiao ask in a low voice, "What's the matter with that woman outside? Didn't I say to temporarily put her in the guest courtyard and ignore her? How can you say that?" The Yao clan's voice was full of displeasure. Qin Yining did not expect Pang Xiao to be so angry at the Yao clan. For a moment, she did not know whether to go in or stand still. If she went in, the Yao clan would say that she was there to watch a joke. If she did not go in, the Yao clan would say that she was not polite and did not know how to pay her respects when she came back. Qin Yining shrugged helplessly. Anyway, in the eyes of those who hated her, even her breathing was wrong. It was enough that she just did her duty and could not ask for anything else. Thinking of this, Qin Yining walked into the inner room. The Yao clan and Yao Qinggu were sitting at the head of the table. The servant girl who was serving them fruit was holding a plate of fruit and standing at the side, helplessly. Madame Ma was not there. Greetings to Old Master and Old Madam. Qin Yining walked to the middle of the floor and bowed respectfully. Yao clan was holding a small silver fork for eating fruit. When she saw Qin Yining enter, her hand clenched even tighter. She did not forget who she was looking for so long. "I knew it was you." Yao Shi coldly snorted. "Once he met you, DeFu began to treat me, his mother, with disdain. You're also a mother, and you have given birth to 2 sons. In the future, when your sons get married, they will treat you like this. You will know what it's like." Qin Yining lowered her head and accepted the scolding. She was too lazy to bicker with Yao clan. Pang Xiao was unable to restrain her anger. She scolded, "Mother, what are you talking about?" After all, she was the leader of the army. When she was really angry, her voice was very loud. Even Cheng Chun was shaken and fell to the ground. Yao clan was so scared that her heart was pounding. She pointed at Pang Xiao and said angrily, "You, is this the attitude you should speak to your own mother?" Pang Xiao said, "When you were living a peaceful life, Sister endured hardships in front of you. When you were safely sent back, Sister was almost killed on the way. She did not do anything to let the Pang family down. On the contrary, I have been implicating her. Mother, since you know that you are my mother, why can't you be more tolerant of the person I love? Don't you blush when you think about what you have done when you are alone?" Yao clan's face turned red. She pointed at Pang Xiao with a trembling finger and said, "You unfilial son, I have been waiting for the stars and the moon. Finally, you came back. But what did you do when you came back? You yelled at your mother and went against your own mother for a woman who has committed 7 crimes. Aren't you afraid that people will laugh at you if this gets out? Committed 7 crimes? Why don't you tell me what Sister has done wrong? She gossiped behind my back and drove a wedge between me and your mother. She drove a wedge between your grandmother and me. She was also jealous and didn't allow you to have concubines. Miss Pan only said a few words in front of her, and she provoked you to yell at me. Isn't she guilty of being jealous? Such a disobedient woman should be sent back to her mother's family." Pang Xiao was so angry that his whole body trembled. The knuckles of his hands cracked. It was the first time that he had seen the Yao clan's unreasonable side. When he was not at home, Qin Yining didn't know that Qin Huaiyuan was still alive. He thought that his father was dead. He was tortured by his mother-in-law and even drove his family out of the prince's mansion. Pang Xiao felt so distressed that he wanted to kill someone. Madam, you're right." Qin Yining smiled and stood up straight. Her voice was calm, and there was a smile in her gentle voice. She said slowly, "According to the rule of 7 to 3, it is indeed time for me to be divorced. Madam said that I gossiped behind your back, but I don't admit it. I didn't do it, so I didn't do it. But if you say that I'm jealous, I admit it. I can't tolerate my husband having other women, let alone watching my husband have children with other women. I also can't watch my husband raise other women's children and let the children of those women who stole my husband call me mother. I used to think that if Wang Yu wanted to have concubines, then let him be. It's just the difference between 100% sincerity and 100% sincerity. But now, I want to say that I don't care about sand in my eyes. I admit that I'm jealous. Qin Yining turned to look at Pang Xiao and said calmly, "If you mind that I'm jealous, then forget it. I'm not the kind of person who can't live without a man. I won't change my jealousy. I have my own family business, and I have the ability to raise my children. As long as you give me a divorce letter, I'll immediately take the children away. You can go and marry a noble lady who will be helpful to your career and have children with her." Nowadays, family Qin is lonely. I also know that Madam is thinking for your sake. You shouldn't be so angry. You should also understand Madam's thoughts. You can search the entire imperial court. Even noble lady's family is better off than mine. It'll be easy for you to remarry. Sister E, you're trying to destroy my heart by saying this. Qin Yining smiled calmly. I'm not trying to destroy your heart. I'm just letting you see clearly. It's not that I don't want to be with you properly. I've experienced too many heart-destroying things like this. I've been a barbarian since I was young. Although I'm from a noble family, I've never received the education of a noble lady. I can't satisfy my mother-in-law, and I'm also not tolerant of others. I know my own shortcomings. Qin Yining turned to look at Yao Chenggu, who had been silent all this time. Esteemed master, loading guns for others and smoking tobacco for yourself are both harmful to your body. Please take care of yourself. Qin Yining was thorough in his etiquette, then walked out of the room in a dignified manner. When he reached the door, he happened to see Ms. Pan peeking her head out. She looked straight ahead as she walked past the woman. She casually called for a servant at the door to lead the way, then returned to her and Pang Zhao's courtyard. The atmosphere in Chunhui Hall was solemn. Pang Xiao looked at Yao Chenggu, then looked at Yao Clan, whose face was red with anger. She turned around and sat down on a round-back chair. First, I only have this one mother and this one grandfather. I can't be unfilial to you. So in the future, I'll still take care of your basic necessities. Second, I won't abandon Sister E. She's easily jealous, and I've spoiled her. I like it when she's jealous. If she's wronged, my heart aches. Whoever makes her feel wronged, I'll make them feel wronged. Third, people who take advantage of others' difficulties, watch with folded arms, sow discord, curry favor with those in power, and act one way in front of others and another behind others' backs. I don't like people like this. Fourth, no one can control how I want to live my life. Whether I take concubines or not, and how many children I want is my own business. No one can control me. You. Yao Clan was so angry that she was about to cry. Why don't you know what's good for you? Don't tell me I'm not doing this for you. Why can't you take concubines? Why are you bewitched by that vixen? Look at other men. Which one of them didn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? Why can't she allow you to take concubines? Pang Xiao stood up and said, I'll say it again. I'll live my own life. No one can treat me like a marionette. That's all I have to say. Let's live our own lives. Pang Xiao cupped his hands, turned around, and strode away. Yao Clan clenched her fists tightly. For a moment, she couldn't even curse. Yao Chenggu shook his head. Useless. He's been bewitched. It's hard to change. Chapter 830. You too. How many times have I told you that you should be in a hurry to speak up when something happens? Dafu just entered the family when he came back and was being intimate with Qin Shi along the way. You had to say this when he was in a good relationship. Will he be obedient? Yao Chenggu was exasperated. He picked up the brass smoking pipe in annoyance. Just as he twirled the tobacco, he suddenly remembered what Qin Yining had said. That penetrating gaze and condescending tone would probably make him unhappy whenever he thought about it for a while. After Yao Chenggu's reminder, the Yao clan also felt upset. She really didn't choose a good time. She was too anxious. She always wanted Pang Xiao to have a child with a pure bloodline. She didn't want to be like him, who foolishly didn't know who to raise his son for. Just as the Yao clan and Yao Chengu were feeling depressed, Qin Yining had already met with Bing Tang, Ji Yun, and the others. Amipa, we're finally safe and sound. Ji Yun happily bowed to the deities. Qin Yining sat down and smiled as he received the tea that Bing Tang brought over. He said, "This time, it's all thanks to the bag of medicine that Bing Tang left for me. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been able to come back to see you." What happened? Everyone's expressions became serious. Lien Xiaozhou's handkerchief was twisted into a fried dough twist. Qin Yining smiled and said, "Look at you guys. It's just a false alarm. Anyways, it's that bag of colorless and odorless medicine that helped me a lot." He smiled at Bing Tang. "I'll definitely thank you properly when I get back." Bing Tang's expression wasn't good. He pulled on Qin Yining's sleeve and shook it. "I told Wang Fei to be careful and not take such risks. But Wang Fei didn't listen. Even if he didn't say it, we could all guess how tense the situation was. Don't thank me. I don't want you to thank me. I just hope that you can be safe in the future and cherish yourself." Qin Yining couldn't help but laugh at Bing Tang's nagging. "Don't say it's so early. If I give you the huzi as a thank you gift, what if you don't want it?" Ji Yun, Xian Yun, Qiu Lu, and Lien Xiaozhou all burst out laughing. The originally tense atmosphere was lightened by Qin Yining's words. Bing Tang blushed and said with dissatisfaction, "I'm concerned about Wang Fei, but Wang Fei is making fun of me. You're getting worse. Io, she's angry. Hurry and help me coax her." Qin Yining also laughed. Bing Tang, Xian Yun, and Lien Xiaozhou went to the left and right of Bing Tang. Bing Tang was ticklish and was chased around the square table. The upper room was filled with laughter, and it was extremely lively. Qin Yining also had a smile on his face as he looked at the servant girls who were like flower buds. But as he smiled, he felt that his eyes were very sore. He forced himself to blink hard and forced himself to hold back the tears. Outside the door, a servant girl bowed respectfully to Pang Xiao. Qin Yining snapped out of his daze and hurriedly took a deep breath to adjust his mood. Bing Tang and the others also stopped laughing and joking and stood to the side. The bead curtain in front of the door was lifted with a crash, and Pang Xiao rushed in with large strides. He stood firmly on the spot with his fists clenched and looked at Qin Yining without saying a word. Seeing that Pang Xiao's expression was not right, Ji Yun and the others put away their playful thoughts and looked at Pang Xiao nervously. The atmosphere between the masters was not right. Could it be that they were at loggerheads? Qin Yining smiled and waved his hand. "Go and prepare hot water first. I want to take a bath." "Yes." The servant girls bowed and then carefully and quickly retreated. The room returned to silence. Pang Xiao slowly walked to Qin Yining and sat down in front of him. His two hands were clenched into fists. One of them was placed on his lap, and the other was gripping the red roux tablecloth tightly. "Sister E, are you?" Pang Xiao was so nervous that his throat was tight and his voice was hoarse. It was as if saying one sentence was more difficult than killing 10,000 enemies on the battlefield. Are you disappointed in me?" Qin Yining did not control his emotions in a fit of rage and offended the Yao clan and Yao Chengu. She was not afraid and did not regret it, but she also thought about how Pang Xiao would face him. She thought of several possibilities. The best one was that he was not angry with her and did not care that she offended the elders. But she did not expect that the first thing he asked her when he came in was this question. Qin Yining's long eyelashes trembled. She did not want Pang Xiao to see her cowardly appearance. She stubbornly refused to let the tears that rushed to her eyes fall. "Don't think too much. I didn't mean it that way. On the contrary, I didn't control myself today and was disrespectful to the old master and old madam. I am really unfilial." Pang Xiao shook his head. He got up and walked to her. He squatted down in front of her and held her hands. He raised his head slightly and looked directly into her eyes. "Sister E, it's my fault. I know you have suffered a lot and suffered a lot. I also know that it was my fault that you were bullied because I didn't handle the matters at home well." Qin Yining shook his head. "We are a family. What are you talking about? I didn't handle the matters at home well and caused you to be implicated. I also didn't handle the matters at home well and caused Mother to treat you like that. He stretched his arms and hugged her waist. He squatted on the ground and pressed his face against her thigh. It is my incompetence as a husband that caused my wife to suffer. Sister E, don't be angry and don't be disappointed in me, okay? I will deal with these matters properly in the future. Qin Yining looked down at Pang Xiao and gently stroked his hair. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she still stubbornly refused to let the tears fall. Her voice was a little nasal. I am not angry with you, and I am not disappointed in you either. Perhaps it is because there is no justice. I will try my best not to have any conflicts with the old master and old madam in the future. I also know that my words put you in a difficult position. No, sistery. No, it's not like that. I'm not in a difficult position. Back then, I implicated you and caused you to be kidnapped to the Titan and suffered so much. I didn't expect that after coming back, I would cause you to be misunderstood and suspected. You risked your life to give birth to 2 children and suffered so much. She even doubted your chastity. You are not the only one who was angry when you heard it. Even I was furious when I saw it. So you can't be blamed for this matter. I promise you that I will not take in a concubine or be with any other woman. I also don't want to have so many children. I have Brother Zhao and Brother Han, and that is enough for me. Sister E, let's just focus on living our lives. Don't care what others say or think, okay? Qin Yining's long eyelashes drooped. The tears that she had held back for a long time finally fell with a plop. Pang Xiao was so nervous that he was at a loss. He hurriedly got up and hugged her. He held her in his arms like he was holding a child. He spun her twice on the ground and sat her down on the square table. He placed his hands on the table on both sides and pressed his forehead against hers. Sister E, don't cry. Don't cry. Ah. Qin Yining hugged his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. She didn't want to show weakness to anyone. If Pang Xiao didn't coax her, she might face anyone with a tough attitude. However, Pang Xiao said these words to her at this time. Pang Xiao was so flustered. He didn't even feel so helpless when leading troops in a battle. He patted her back with his big hand and comforted her. However, he hated that his language was too poor. He could only say, "Good girl, don't cry." After a long time, Qin Yining finally calmed down and held back her tears. Pang Xiao was relieved. He wrung a wet handkerchief and wiped Qin Yining's face. He said while wiping, "Don't be angry and don't misunderstand. The woman's surname is Pan. Her father is a shopkeeper under Mrs. Mu. He has a lot of business in Sidong. You were in the capital during this time, so you don't know the situation in the south and the Chiu family. It turned out that since Chiu Yuanqing assassinated his father and took the position of the head of the family, the Chiu family was divided into 2 factions. One faction supported Chiu Yuanqing, while the other faction supported Chiu Feishan. Chiu Yuanqing and Chiu Feishan each had their own confidants, and these confidants were divided into 2 factions. One faction was loyal to the master, and the other faction doubted the master's ability. They wanted to take advantage of the chaos and replace the master. Chiu Yuanqing's unreliable subordinates had been dealt with by Chiu Yuanqing. Miss Pan's father was a shopkeeper under Chiu Feishan. He had a lot of ambition. He looked down on Chiu Feishan's identity as a woman and wanted to replace her. Chiu Feishan and Pang Xiao cooperated. The 2 benefited each other. Pang Xiao supported the army. The imperial court didn't give the local people food and salary. The magistrate couldn't raise money. The bandits were almost eliminated. Chiu Feishan led Sidong to cooperate with Pang Xiao. They supported the army and got the army support. Shopkeeper Pan also had the same idea. He could give the same treatment as Chiu Feishan, and Pang Xiao wouldn't lose out no matter who he chose to cooperate with. He could decide the success or failure of the person he chose to support. In order to win over Pang Xiao, Shopkeeper Pan naturally used all kinds of methods. Gold, silver, treasures, and rare antiques were one thing. He also had the intention to climb up the social ladder. His daughter was born well. If she could be Pang Xiao's concubine, he would give her to Pang Xiao. If she could be his concubine, He wouldn't have to worry about not having enough confidence in the future. If Pan Kiyu could give birth to a son or a daughter, or directly become a concubine, the Pan family would have a meteoric rise. So her name is Kiyu? Just like her name, she's a real beauty. Pang Xiao rolled his eyes at her. Don't joke. How could she be compared to you? She's just an ordinary person. I can't even remember what she looks like. Qin Yining smiled and didn't dwell on this topic. He analyzed with Pang Xiao. Qiu Yuanqing can't support us anymore, and we don't need people's support as urgently as Qiu Feishan. For her, if she wants to turn the tables, she must strive to cooperate with you. But for us, there are many people like Shopkeeper Pan who want to establish a relationship with you. Now that Qiu Feishan and her subordinates haven't decided who's better, it's even more inconvenient for us to make a choice in advance. So, this is why you can't fall out with Shopkeeper Pan and directly send Miss Pan back, right? Pang Xiao nodded. Sister E is very smart. Chapter 831. Pang Xiao took Qin Yining's hand, lowered his head, and kissed her fingertips. I'll listen to you. Sister E, I'm not afraid, even if I don't have anyone to support me. It's not easy to support the 100,000 South Pacifying Army, but I can always think of a way. Don't think that you have to suffer because of money. I couldn't refuse your kindness before, so I let her stay in the guest house in front of everyone. I treated her as a guest, and I've been in the military camp all this time. But she's too unruly. How could she do such a thing? There's no place for her in our house anymore. Qin Yining felt warm in his heart. He thought about the current situation seriously and said, it's actually not that difficult. Anyway, it's a matter between women. Would a father who can give his daughter away in exchange for his future care about his daughter's life and death? Would he not cooperate because his daughter was wronged? Pang Xiao heard the jealousy and murderous intent in Qin Yining's words. He didn't know why, but he felt inexplicably comfortable in his heart. It was just as he said to the Yao clan. Even if Qin Yining was jealous, he still liked her. If she was like all women who didn't fight for anything and didn't feel anything when other women were attentive to him, then he would be worried that he was no longer liked by Qin Yining. Don't be angry. I'll send her home later. Qin Yining shook his head. If you send her home, the nature of the matter will change. It won't be a matter between women anymore. Don't interfere in the matters of the harem. Pang Xiao thought for a while and understood what Qin Yining meant. He nodded and said, okay, I'll listen to you. Qin Yining deliberately teased him. Listen to me? If I mess up your source of income, will you listen to me? Didn't I say that I'll think of a way? Don't let yourself be wronged because of this reason. That's good. Qin Yining leaned on Pang Xiao's shoulder. After a long time, he said, there's nothing else in the mansion. I'll go home and take a look. Let's go together. Pang Xiao was about to order the people outside to prepare carriages and horses. However, Qin Yining stopped him. It's only one street away. It's not troublesome enough. Let's just walk there. Pang Xiao nodded. All right. The two of them tidied up a little and left with their men. When they returned to the family Qin mansion, Qin Yining sent all the servants away, leaving only his own family members behind. He told them the news that Qin Huaiyuan was still alive. Old Madam's eyes widened like copper bells. She leaned forward excitedly. Are you serious about what you said? Qin Yining said, when I received the letter, it was already the day before I left home. I was worried that it would be dangerous if the news was leaked, so I destroyed the letter. But I can confirm that it is indeed my father's handwriting. The person who saved my father was also someone I met in the desert, so it should be correct. The members of the Sun clan were so excited that their faces were filled with tears. Really? Really? She didn't know what she was saying anymore. She unconsciously repeated this sentence over and over again. Old Madam was even more overjoyed. She grabbed Mammy Qin and Second Madam's hands, and the three of them cried together. Second Old Master and Third Old Master were so happy that they wanted to shout a few times. The whole family was so happy that it was as if they were celebrating the new year. Qin Yining's gaze fell on Miss Ba and Qin Huaining. He found that although they were happy, there was a limit to their joy. He understood after thinking about it. After Qin Huaiyuan's incident, no one from the family came to offer condolences, let alone their children's in-laws. The two marriages that Miss Ba and Qin Huaining talked about were originally settled, but in the end, they were canceled. Miss Ba and Qin Huaining were not young anymore. They were already at the age to get married. At her age, she even had a child. However, Miss Ba and Qin Huaining's marriage was canceled. It would be strange if they were happy. Qin Yining couldn't say much. He could only discuss this matter with the elders behind their backs. After the whole family quieted down, Qin Yining said, "Everyone knows. Don't spread it outside. If others know, not only will there be trouble, but it may also bring trouble to father." "We all know," second old master and third old master said in unison. Old Madam asked, "When will your father come back? Is he in the desert now? Will he suffer?" Qin Yining said, "My father went there to seek refuge. Naturally, he won't be able to come back in the short term. However, there's an oasis in the desert. My people are all there. Although their lives can't be compared to in the mansion, they shouldn't suffer much." When old Madam heard that her father couldn't come back, she pursed her lips in disappointment. A wronged expression appeared on her wrinkled face, as if she was a child who had been bullied. Seeing old Madam like this, Qin Yining didn't know what to feel in his heart. After all, old Madam was already old. There were many things that Qin Yining didn't want to remember and didn't want to fuss about. The whole family chatted for a while more and then went their separate ways happily. Pang Xiao, second old master, and third old master were talking in the outer courtyard. Qin Yining held the Sun Clan's arm and sent her back to her room. After Madame Sun's joy, her pent-up anger dissipated and her mood improved a lot. However, her mood was a little down at this moment. "Sister Yi, I think your father may not come back for the new year." "Why do you say that, mother?" "If your majesty knows that your father is still alive, he may say that we are deceiving him. Your father is very shrewd. He won't come back rashly and leave behind any evidence." Qin Yining smiled and held the Sun Clan's arm. "Mother, do you miss father?" The Sun Clan's face heated up. "You bad girl. You only know how to talk nonsense." After walking for a while, the Sun Clan said, "Of course I miss him. However, no matter how much I miss him, it's not as important as your father's life. As long as he's alive, it's not a big deal even if he's not at home." The Sun Clan let out a long breath and smiled brightly for the first time in days. "After this incident, I've come to terms with it. Nothing is more important than a person being alive. Yes, nothing is more important than a person's life." Qin Yining also sighed. The Sun Clan stopped and held Qin Yining's hand. She looked at her and said with pity, "When I heard that something happened to your father, my mind was already muddled. I was in a daze all day. When I returned home, I didn't have time to take care of you." At this point, Madame Sun felt ashamed. "You've suffered. Why did you lose so much weight?" Bing Tang, Ji Yun, and the others who followed behind Qin Yining were speechless for a while. It had been so long, and he only remembered to care about his daughter. Wasn't it too late? Qin Yining didn't take it to heart. She smiled and said, "Mother, don't mind it. The past is the past. I'll come back to eat more in the future. The weight will soon grow back." The Sun Clan nodded happily. "You're right." Qin Yining sent the Sun Clan back to her room. He was not in a hurry to return home. He chatted with the Sun Clan for a while. At the same time, in a two-story house in the west of the city, Qiu Feishan stroked her bulging belly. Her hands trembled slightly as she took a letter from Being. "Madam, don't worry. Your pregnancy is getting bigger and bigger. You have to be more careful." Qiu Feishan shook her head and opened the letter. At first glance, she was so shocked that her face turned pale. She loosened her hand and the letter fell to the ground. Chapter 832. Being saw that her mistress's complexion was not right and hurriedly went to help her. Mistress, please sit down first. No matter what, you have to put yourself first." Qiu Feishan shook her head, and after a long time, her lips trembled. Something happened. At this time, Being had already picked up the letter that fell on the ground, and with a glance, she had already read the contents clearly, and her face could not help but change greatly. Son-in-law and son-in-law's master were kidnapped by second master. Qiu Feishan nodded, her eyes staring blankly ahead, as if she had encountered something that she could not bear. and her back was bent. Qiu Yuanqing is not a kind person. I'm afraid they are in danger. Bing nervously handed the letter back to Qiu Feishan and pointed to the following paragraph. Look here. Qiu Feishan looked at the line of words, and with a dry voice she said, I saw it. Qiu Yuanqing's conditions were very simple. As long as she agreed to lead Pang Xiao to Bo and Road, 80 miles in front of Jinchuan City, he would let Mu Jinghu and Tian Jizi live. If he did not see Pang Xiao go to Bo and Road before the specified time, he would tear Mu Jinghu and Tian Jizi into pieces. Bo and Road was a small village sandwiched under the mountain wall, and every time one went to Jinchuan, they would pass by there, and it was the best place to design an ambush. Because it was close to Jinchuan, and there were often caravans and pedestrians going to Jinchuan passing by, tea shops and wine stalls gradually opened on both sides of Bo and Road, which could be regarded as a temporary place to rest. It seemed that Qiu Yuanqing had long planned to let her lead Pang Xiao there. Her biggest bargaining chip now was the cooperation between the four channels and Pang Xiao, and if there was a problem with the cooperation. Because Qiu Feishan knew what would happen to her. But could she gamble with Mu Jinghu's life? Mistress, don't worry. Bing's throat was dry, and for the first time, she felt that she was so clumsy that she could not even comfort people properly. She had served Qiu Feishan since she was a child. She liked and admired this decisive young lady. The Qiu Feishan she was familiar with was able to shake the world and the business world. Even men were not her opponents. But now, Qiu Feishan was soft as if she was a different person. Or, since marrying Mu Jinghu, Qiu Feishan's temperament had changed, and being often felt. Just like now, the person who was originally calm and composed, who didn't even care about human lives, was now completely flustered because of this letter. Her heart had become so soft that Bing didn't know how to comfort her. Qiu Feishan stroked her swollen belly. In 3 months, her child would come to this world. Regardless of the reason why she initially agreed to marry Mu Jinghu, after living together, Mu Jinghu's clumsiness and straightforwardness still made her unable to hate him. Qiu Feishan used to think that she did not care about this husband, and even the child in her belly was very indifferent. But now, she realized that her true feelings may not be what she thought at all. Qiu Feishan took the time it took to burn a stick of incense to calm herself down, and then ordered Bing, prepare the carriage. Let's go to the palace. Seeing that Qiu Feishan's expression had returned to normal and was no longer in a daze, Bing was more or less relieved and hurriedly listened to the order to prepare. Qin Yining and Pang Xiao were at the Qin Manor at this time, so Qiu Feishan naturally did not find them. However, although Qiu Feishan knew that Pang Xiao and Qin Yining had gone to the Qin Manor, and it was only a street away, she was still very calm and did not look for them, but waited in the carriage. Before the curfew in the city, Pang Xiao and Qin Yining came back from the Qin Manor hand in hand with a group of servants. Qiu Feishan expressionlessly looked at the appearance of the two through the window screen and could not help but feel envious. Bing also saw and hurriedly said, Mistress, Nubi will go down and stop them. It's all right, help me out of the carriage. Qiu Feishan came back to her senses and let Bing help her out of the carriage. Qin Yining returned home and told the news that Qin Huan was not dead to his family and was in a good mood. Even the anger caused by the Sun clan had dissipated. She and Pang Xiao held hands and chatted, and lowered her head to look at the road under the light of the lanterns, but found that the footsteps of the people around her slowed down, and a big hand pulled her behind him, and a tall figure blocked in front of her. Qin Yining stopped in his tracks and looked in front of him in confusion. Qiu Feishan supported her waist with one hand and held Bing's hand with the other and looked at the two with a smile. Wang Yi, princess consort. Qiu Feishan saluted, but she was pregnant, so she was very clumsy, and her movements were stiff when she saluted, which made Qin Yining tremble for her. She was pregnant and gave birth, so she understood the pain of pregnant women the most. She naturally did not want Qiu Feishan to be tired. Qin Yining pinched Pang Xiao's hand. She could not make decisions for Pang Xiao. After all, the cooperation between Qiu Feishan and Pang Xiao was a big deal, and Qin Yining, a woman in the inner house, could not participate. Pang Xiao immediately understood Qin Yining's meaning and said, "It turned out to be Boss Qiu." Since the last time she came back, Qiu Feishan was completely independent from the Qiu family, and Pang Xiao called her the boss of Sidong. Qiu Feishan said, "It's really rude to disturb your house, but the matter is urgent, so I came directly without sending an invitation." Pang Xiao nodded. "Since you have something to do, let's go in and talk." A group of people went to the flower hall in the outer courtyard. Qin Yining did not want to go, but Pang Xiao kept holding her hand, so she had to follow. The servants served tea and respectfully retreated. Pang Xiao went straight to the point. "Boss Qiu, if you have something to say, just say it." Qiu Feishan nodded, took out the threatening letter from her arms, and handed it to Pang Xiao. Qin Yining tilted her head in confusion. Being, who knew about it, was very surprised. The letter asked them to lead Pang Xiao to Bo and Road, and Xiu Yuanqing must have arranged everything there. They came. Was it not to lead Pang Xiao into the trap? Why did the first sentence of opening the door was to sell out the old tricks? Being suddenly looked at Qiu Feishan and could not help but feel a burst of emotion in her heart. Great! It turned out that Master was still the Master she was familiar with. She thought that she had become indecisive and soft-hearted, and that she would destroy the Great Wall and break off the cooperation with Pang Xiao for Mu Jinghu's life. But it turned out that Master was not like that. Being was very glad, although she felt that it was a pity that Mu Jinghu and his Sherwood died. But in order to take back everything of the Qiu family, she could understand Master's choice. Pang Xiao carefully read the letter and then handed it to Qin Yining. Qin Yining was puzzled, but when he saw the contents of the letter, his face changed. No wonder Mu Jinghu did not appear in time. It turned out that Mu Jinghu and Tianjizi were kidnapped by the Qiu family. Chapter 833. Chain of Schemes. Qin Yining was not in a hurry to express his stance. He did not want to interfere too much in the matter between Pang Xiao and Qiu Feishan. But Qin Yining also knew that whether it was for public or private reasons, Pang Xiao would not watch Mu Jinghu get into trouble. "Boss Qiu, since you show me this letter, you must have already made a decision in your heart." Pang Xiao looked at Qiu Feishan. It was not that he was being too cautious, but whether this letter was really sent from the Qiu family, or if someone deliberately imitated it, or if Qiu Feishan was that person, he was not very sure at the moment. Pang Xiao had led the army for many years, and naturally sought victory in stability. Although he was worried about Mu Jinghu's safety, he would not easily trust anyone. Qiu Feishan was smart and immediately understood Pang Xiao's concerns. She said sincerely, "Wang Yi, this matter is true. I can swear on the child in my belly." Pang Xiao and Qin Yining's expressions became serious. What was Qiu Feishan doing? They were parents and naturally knew how serious it was to swear on the child. But Qiu Feishan actually said these words. They could indeed believe that Qiu Feishan was not lying. But at this time, they were even more confused about what Qiu Feishan wanted to do. If Qiu Feishan really wanted to save Mu Jinghu's life, she should have kept this matter a secret and found a way to lead Pang Xiao to Bo and Road, and then there would be hope to save Mu Jinghu. But she did not do that, and first came to Pang Xiao to surrender. So, in Qiu Feishan's heart, her cooperation with Pang Xiao to take back the Qiu family was much more important than Mu Jinghu's safety. Thinking of this, Pang Xiao and Qin Yining both felt aggrieved and sorry for Mu Jinghu. It seemed that Tianjizi's choice of spouse for Mu Jinghu was not appropriate. Qiu Feishan obviously did not have much true feelings for Mu Jinghu, so she did not care about Mu Jinghu's life and death. A couple could be ordinary or poor, but they couldn't be without sincerity. Now it seemed that there was no sincerity between Qiu Feishan and Mu Jinghu. Pang Xiao said, "Boss Qiu, what do you mean?" "Wang Yi, I'm willing to draw you a detailed map of this place. I feel that with Wang Ye's ability, if you can set up an ambush here in advance, you will definitely be able to kill Qiu Yuanqing." Pang Xiao looked at Qiu Feishan's bright and ambitious eyes. Boss Qiu is right. Qiu Feishan did not back down and looked at Pang Xiao. She smiled and said, "Great minds think alike." Pang Xiao also smiled. It's a good idea, and it can indeed catch Qiu Yuanqing off guard. But in this way, what if Mu Jinghu is torn apart by the other party? Qiu Feishan said indifferently. Those who achieve great things do not care about trifles. I believe that if Wang Yu was in my position, he would also make a decision between the safety of the entire family and his own. Moreover, he and I are husband and wife, so he will definitely understand my choice. Pang Xiao nodded seriously. You're right. Then you draw the map. I will do it as soon as possible. I also look forward to being able to severely injure Qiu Yuanqing. Qiu Feishan was then led to the side hall by Huzi to draw the map. When Qin Yining saw that they were far away, he could not help but ask Pang Xiao in a low voice, "Won't Mr. Mu be in danger? He is already a highly skilled martial artist, but he was still caught. There must be a reason behind it. Maybe he is even seriously injured. In this situation, whether he is alive or dead, if Qiu Yuanqing finds out in advance, what will Mr. Mu do?" Pang Xiao nodded. I understand. I can only say that. Mu Jinghu is not as lucky as I am. Qin Yining blinked. He did not know where Pang Xiao's sigh came from. Pang Xiao sighed for Mu Jinghu in his heart. The wife that Tian Jizi chose for Mu Jinghu was indeed powerful, but she was too heartless. Such a woman could indeed achieve great things. Her husband and children were nothing in her eyes. This kind of person did not have a weakness at all, right? Qiu Feishan carefully drew the map of Pa and Road. Even the general route to Pu and Road and the things to pay attention to were listed clearly. After careful inspection, she followed Huzi back to the front hall. Pang Xiao took the map and looked at it carefully. Qiu Feishan said, "The matter has been solved. I will take my leave." Pang Xiao let Huzi see her off. Qiu Feishan did not seem to notice Pang Xiao's alienation and coldness. With Being's help, she sat in the carriage to return home. At this time, Being's view of Qiu Feishan had completely changed. She was still the same girl as before. Even if she had a family, she would not change. When she was happy and proud, she suddenly heard Qiu Feishan say, "Being, go and ask shopkeeper Lu to come." Being was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes. Shopkeeper Lu came quickly. When he saw Qiu Feishan, he bowed very respectfully. Although Qiu Feishan's body was heavy due to her pregnancy, she still supported him with both hands and said, "I invited you here today because I have something to ask of you. I know this is very difficult for you, but although there are many people around me that I can use, there are not many that I can trust." Shopkeeper Lu was Qiu Feishan's confidant. Seeing that Qiu Feishan was so sincere, Shopkeeper Lu immediately said, "Boss, just say it. No matter what it is, I will go through water and tread on fire for boss." Qiu Feishan said, "I know that although you are good at martial arts, you never want to use it in front of people. This time, I have to trouble you. Qiu Yuanqing kidnapped my son-in-law. He wants me to." Qiu Feishan told him the content of the threatening letter, and then told him about the meeting with Pang Xiao today in detail. Finally, she said, "I want to ask you to quietly follow behind Pang Xiao. If Pang Xiao can deal with Qiu Yuanqing's people and rescue my son-in-law, that would be good. But if Pang Xiao makes any mistakes, it is possible to be exposed. You have to go to Qiu Yuanqing first and tell him about the arrangement of Pang Xiao here. Boss, you are, for his safety, I have to prepare for both sides. If Pang Xiao can save my son-in-law, that would be good. If not, I can only fulfill the threat in the letter and sell him. Anyway, I can't let anything happen to Mu Jinghu." Shopkeeper Lu sighed and nodded. "Boss, don't worry. I will handle this matter well. But if you do this, once it is exposed, you will completely fall out with Prince Zhongshuan. I am afraid it will be difficult to cooperate in the future. Even so, do you still insist on doing this?" Qiu Feishan closed her eyes and said, "I can't watch my child be fatherless." Shopkeeper Lu sighed again. At the side, who was still admiring Qiu Feishan's decisive killing intent, Being also finally recovered. It turned out that her master had changed in the end. She didn't know if this change was good or not. Shopkeeper Lu accepted the order and left. Although he had not shown his real skills for a long time, and he had the appearance of a scholar, which was very deceptive. As long as Xiao Feishan asked, he would do his best to do it. At this time, Qin Yining and Pang Xiao had already washed up and settled down. Pang Xiao was lying on his back with one of his arms, his big hand holding Qin Yining's shoulder and pressing him against his chest. In the quiet night, his voice was full of emotion. AI, Blockhead, is a pitiful person. Qin Yining was already drowsy, but was awakened by Pang Xiao's sigh. He couldn't help but find it funny. How many times have you sighed? Pang Xiao was surprised and shook his head. I just feel that Blockhead is pitiful. He is a very stubborn person. Although it was wrong for him to steal a wife, he was still schemed against by Tian Jizi. What's more, after he got married, he really treated Xiao Feishan well. But even so, he still couldn't warm Xiao Feishan up. At the critical moment, he still had to be sacrificed first. In Xiao Feishan's heart, the Qiu family's foundation and the position of the head of the family are probably more important than Blockhead. Speaking until here, Pang Xiao turned over and half-pressed Qin Yining down, kissing the corner of his mouth. His dark phoenix eyes seemed to twinkle in the night. My sister, you wouldn't do this to me. Qin Yining chuckled. Her heart was soft, and she said angrily, Don't be so smug. We don't have such a thing. If we did, maybe I would be more vicious than Xiao Feishan. I will be the first to sell you. Pang Xiao chuckled mischievously. His big hands are already restless. If you sell me, I won't be angry. In any case, I'll collect enough interest first. When the time comes and you sell me, I'll quietly run back. Wouldn't it be good for both of us to make a profit? Eodi, he said it as if he could really sell him. Qin Yining was so amused that she couldn't stop laughing. With the vibration of her laughter, her soft body also trembled slightly. Pang Xiao's side that was close to her was like being thrown on the fire. His eyes gradually became deep. His breathing also became heavy, and he maliciously bit her lower lip. If you want to sell me, you should first weigh my weight. I will weigh you, okay? Qin Yining's voice was swallowed by him before it could come out. His big hand held her fair and smooth little hand and lingered on his muscular body. He said in a low voice, You check the goods first. This inspection of the goods lasted until late at night. After inspecting the goods, they weighed them. It was until midnight. Qin Yining was already exhausted, and Pang Xiao finally stopped. Her eyelids were so heavy that she couldn't lift them at all. Qin Yining held on to her last bit of consciousness and told Pang Xiao what she wanted to say, but didn't have the chance to. I think Xiao Feishan's plan is not that simple. You should be more careful. In the end, his voice gradually faded away. He had fallen asleep right after he finished speaking. Pang Xiao looked at the person in his arms in surprise. He chuckled and hugged her even tighter. He planted a light kiss on her forehead. Good girl, go to sleep. The next day, Pang Xiao arranged for people to prepare. He held Qin Yining's hand reluctantly and said, We just reunited for a day, and I have to go out again. Fortunately, Grandma is at home and can help me take good care of you. You just have to be at ease at home. Don't be afraid if you run into trouble, and don't let others bully you. I will be back soon. Qin Yining smiled and said, I know. Who can bully me? Don't worry. Just remember my words. Don't be too honest. Yes, I know. Qin Yining turned back to look at Pan Qiu, who was standing not too far away. She was the one who was talking to Pang Xiao, and the servant girls wouldn't even get close to her. However, Pan Qiu was like a blind fool who insisted on coming over. Chapter 834. Pang Xiao had long noticed that Qin Yining always inadvertently looked in a certain direction. When he heard this, he couldn't help but chuckle happily. Qin Yining looked up at him in surprise, only to see that Pang Xiao was smiling. His phoenix eyes were long and slanted, which usually gave people a sense of fierceness. But at this time, when he grinned, it only made people feel warm and happy. Qin Yining also couldn't help laughing. What are you laughing at? Pang Xiao lowered his head to look at her. From his angle, he could see her large eyes and long eyelashes. The more he looked at her from this angle, the more adorable she looked. He didn't care that they were in front of the manor's gate. His large hand couldn't help but grab her waist and pull her closer to him. Sister E, do whatever you want. I won't sacrifice my body for someone's help and let my own people be wronged for no reason. Qin Yining was completely amused by the words sacrifice his body. He couldn't help but gently punch him on the shoulder. Pang Xiao also couldn't help laughing more happily. It was normal for the two of them to get along so sweetly. The servants around them had long been used to it. But in the eyes of some people, it was just an eyesore. Yao Clan, who had just arrived at the door, rolled his eyes and coughed with a handkerchief covering his mouth. Pan Qiu turned around and hurriedly bowed. Old master, old madam, old madam. Greetings. Yao Chengu nodded with his hands clasped behind his back. Yao Clan said with a smile, You are also here. He chatted with Pan Qiu. Madame didn't even look at Pan Qiu. She just looked at Pang Xiao and Qin Yining, who were talking and laughing. She also laughed. Look how nice they are. Yao sure heard this and lightly snorted, improper. Madame Ma was in a very good mood, but when she heard this, her face immediately darkened. Improper? You say it, as if you are very considerate. Yao Clan was stunned at first, then his face blushed. It wasn't the first time that Madame Ma had scolded her. She was angry because when Madame Ma and Ma Zhongjing had gotten married and got pregnant, she would scold her whenever there was something about women's morals and rules. How many years has it been? Mother, why are you still biting on it? If I knew what was proper, then Dai Fu wouldn't even be in this world. Mrs. Ma sneered. You think you're proud? Yao Clan was so angry that his face turned red. He bit his lower lip and did not dare talk back, because Madame Ma always beat her up without caring about the occasion. She didn't want to make a fool of herself in public. Qin Yining and Pang Xiao had already seen Madame Ma and her entourage coming out. The two of them walked over together. Grandma, hey, Dai Fu, you must be careful when you go out. You must pay attention to your safety. Your family is waiting for you. The reason Pang Xiao went out was to lead troops to suppress bandits. When it came to suppressing bandits, it was a real fight. If things didn't go well, he would lose his life. Madame Ma was very worried, but she also knew that this was what Pang Xiao had to do. She couldn't stop him and could only earnestly remind him to relieve his worries. Pang Xiao nodded seriously. Grandma, don't worry. I've already prepared. Nothing will happen. As he spoke, he pushed Qin Yining to Madame Ma. I'm not at home. Grandma, please take care of Sister Yi. Madame Ma beamed and nodded repeatedly. Okay. Don't worry. Yao Clan and Yao Chengu had been neglected for a long time and were unhappy. When they heard Pang Xiao's words, Yao Chengu frowned. Yao Clan's mouth was crooked. But after all, they were also very concerned about Pang Xiao's safety. Yao Clan didn't want to be estranged from their son, so she didn't flare up at this time and didn't directly confront Pang Xiao. Anyway, she was Qin Yining's official mother-in-law. When Pang Xiao wasn't here, she asked her daughter-in-law to set the rules. Who could say that she was wrong? Wang Yi, the troops outside the city are ready to go. Huzi came to report. Pang Xiao realized that it was almost time. He reluctantly squeezed Qin Yining's hand and said with a smile, I'm leaving. I'll be back soon. Qin Yining nodded with a smile. Pang Xiao respectfully bowed to Yao Chengu, Madame Ma, and the Yao clan. Then he mounted his horse and left with a few of his attendants to join the troops outside the city. Looking at Pang Xiao's back, Qin Yining's heart throbbed. Even though they had been married for so long and their child was already 1.5 years old, this man often made her blush and her heart warm. She couldn't help but want to look away. She was too embarrassed to stare at him in front of others, but she couldn't bear to miss a second of time with him. She didn't know how other people would feel after marriage. Anyway, she and Pang Xiao were separated more than they were together, but they became more intimate and cherished each other. Madame Ma watched Qin Yining eat and stared in the direction Pang Xiao left for a long time. She couldn't help but smile and say, Okay, don't look. He's gone far. Qin Yining suddenly came back to his senses and said with a blush, No, I was thinking about something just now. Grandma, let's go back. Madame Ma didn't expose him. She nodded with a smile and turned back with Qin Yining. As soon as she turned around, she saw Yao Clan with her hands folded and her handkerchief clenched into a ball. She was staring at Qin Yining coldly. Qin Yining stopped and said respectfully, old madam. Yao Shi sneered, but in the end, she was not stupid. She could not say anything unpleasant in front of Ma Shi. She only said, I heard people say that your needlework is good. I just happen to have some cloth cut out and want to make some winter clothes. Come and help me see what the flowers look like. These were the things that women talked about in the family. She said that she wanted to look at the flowers and do sewing. In fact, she wanted Qin Yining to set the rules. Qin Yining wasn't surprised at all. He said respectfully, yes. Madame Ma frowned. Just as she was about to stop him, Yao Qinggu said with a smile, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are willing to be intimate. Don't stop them. Are we going to accompany the child for the rest of his life? Why don't we take the opportunity to ease their relationship now? Yao Qinggu's words spoke Madame Ma's mind. She was old, and there would be a day when she had to leave. She wanted to see the Yao clan have someone to rely on in her old age. She wanted the whole family to be harmonious and happy. She didn't want to be estranged from the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Madame Ma sighed and didn't stop him. Instead, she said, are you going to make winter clothes? Your father and I are going to make winter clothes too. I'll bring the cloth and the people to make it with you. With her around, the Yao clan couldn't make any trouble, right? Yao clan's face stiffened when she heard that. She looked at Yao Qinggu subconsciously as if asking for help, but Yao Qinggu didn't say anything. Yao clan could only nod. That's good, Qin Yining said with a smile. I'm also planning to cut some old clothes for the two brothers. They've grown up a lot, right? The clothes I made before shouldn't be suitable for them. At the mention of her great-grandchildren, Madame Ma smiled happily. She held Qin Yining's hand and said, the two children can walk now. They can say simple words and call me great-grandma. It's just that the conditions don't allow it. I don't know if the children will still recognize me when they see me. These words pierced Qin Yining's heart. At that time, she had no choice but to let the Sun clan and Madame Ma take the children to Southern Yin and let Duchess Ding take care of them. The children were young and couldn't remember things clearly. Maybe when they met again, they wouldn't even recognize her as their mother. Madame Ma seemed to realize that she had said something wrong. She couldn't help but pat Qin Yining's hand and said, mother and children are connected by heart. The children will be close to you when they see you. Don't worry. Qin Yining said with a smile, yes, one you should have arranged for people to go to the south to pick them up. They should be here soon. Really? Madame Ma was surprised. That's great. We still have to make the clothes quickly. The two of them talked and laughed. They each asked people to bring needles, thread, and dustpans and sent them to the Yao clan's house. The Yao clan's smile froze on their faces. They had no impression of what their grandchildren looked like, let alone how much they missed them. In her heart, she always felt that there was something wrong with the bloodline of the two children. In addition, she didn't like Qin Yining, so she naturally didn't have any expectations for them. She wanted Qin Yining to set the rules, but she didn't succeed in the end. Every time Qin Yining was called by the Yao clan, Madame Ma would always come with him. Now that the Yao clan saw Madame Ma, it was like a mouse seeing a cat. No matter how many plans they had, they couldn't carry them out. They were very depressed. Helplessly, she could only think of ways to make Qin Yining unhappy to vent her anger for herself. Pan Qiu was invited by the Yao clan every day to talk. So Qiu also knows how to make northern snacks? The Yao clan laughed and chatted with Pan Qiu while drinking tea. Qin Yining and Madame Ma were sitting together sewing clothes for the children. When they heard the sound, they couldn't help but look up. Pan Qiu was wearing a light pink robe and a pomegranate red dress. She was delicate and beautiful like a flower. As if she sensed Qin Yining and Madame Ma's gazes, she straightened her back and said modestly, I only know a little. If Madame Ma likes it, I'll make some next time. Please try it and give me some advice. The Yao clan was happy to hear that and said, okay, you can also make some savory snacks. Let me tell you, Dai Fu loves to eat those. He knows how to make them himself, but he's busy with work and doesn't have the mood to cook. The people around him are disappointing. They don't know how to make these. If you can make them well, Dai Fu will have a good meal. Qin Yining, who didn't know how to make snacks, was speechless. Madame Ma felt awkward when she heard those words. She put on the thimble and picked up the half-finished sauce. Everyone likes different tastes. Don't tell me Dai Fu doesn't have a chef by his side. These days, as long as you have money, what kind of chef can't you hire? Sister, he runs such a big business. How can Dai Fu's mouth suffer? Moreover, Miss Pan is a guest. Dai Fu specially ordered the servants in the outer courtyard to serve her well. You, on the other hand, are ordering people to make snacks. The Yao clan originally put on airs in front of Pan Qiu. After all, she was the birth mother of Prince Zhongshuan and had the title of nobility. Pan Qiu was born in a rich family. She was proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She was also beautiful and had always taken the initiative to get close to her. The Yao clan found a lot of confidence in front of Pan Qiu. But now, they were tongue-tied after being scolded by Madame Ma. The Yao clan gritted her teeth. She didn't believe that Madame Ma couldn't understand Pan Qiu's intentions. She didn't know what kind of witchcraft Qin Yining used to make Madame Ma especially like to go against her. At this time, Qin Yining just finished using a thread. He held a bandage and looked up with a smile. Before Wang Yi left, I had a discussion with Wang Yi. The weather is good now, and it's a peaceful time. I haven't had time to walk around the old capital, and I haven't gotten to know all the madams yet. So I plan to hold a 100 Flowers banquet at Changchun Garden in a few days and invite all the young ladies to come and gather. S. Front gave a warning. Chapter 835. Why did she want to hold a banquet and invite all the womenfolk? Pang Zhao's military exploits were splendid. His position was extremely high, yet he only had one official consort by his side. Even though this official consort gave birth to a pair of twins when she entered the family, it was an indisputable fact that the inner residence was empty. Which high-ranking official in the imperial court didn't have 3 wives and 5 concubines? In the eyes of the Yao clan, her son was much better than those people. Why was it okay for others to have concubines, but not her son? Now, Qin Yining was tactful. She was willing to hold a banquet and invite all the noble ladies to attend. The reason was self-evident. As a mother-in-law, she could also save her breath. Otherwise, she would be forced to marry Pang Xiao and be resented by Pang Xiao. The Yao clan was satisfied, but she still wanted to provoke Qin Yining. Oh, aren't you challenging your mother-in-law face to face? What do you mean by you are jealous? Qin Yining wiped the embroidery needle on her temples and said with a smile, "You will know when the time comes." This answer was a little subtle. The proud smile on the Yao clan's face froze and turned into doubt and vigilance. Mrs. Ma didn't know what Qin Yining wanted to do, but she trusted Qin Yining's character. Besides, she always felt that it was okay for the younger generation to live a good life. As elders, they shouldn't criticize them. The times were different. How could the young people live the same life as they did in their time? It was wrong for them to impose their so-called experience on the children. But obviously, the Yao clan didn't think the same way. Mrs. Ma said, "Sister E is going to hold a banquet. It's going to make more friends. You still have to live a good life in the future. You shouldn't focus on the business. Don't tire yourself out. At least you know some people. You will have some entertainment in the future." Qin Yining smiled and said, "Grandma is right. What business can she have? It's just a small fight. How can it tire her out?" The Yao clan grabbed a handful of sunflower seeds and munched on them. Although Pan Qiu was standing obediently to the side, her face was full of disdain and mockery. It was as if the Pan family didn't care about Qin Yining's business at all. After doing some needlework and having lunch together, Qin Yining went back to her room. Yao clan took Pan Qiu's hand and said with a smile, "Good girl, don't worry about others. I have faith in you." You see, as soon as Dai Fu left, she began to make arrangements for the 100-flower banquet. Don't you understand? Pan Qiu blushed and smiled gently. I don't understand what old madam is saying. Silly girl. Yao Shi lovingly stroked Pan Qiu's delicate hand and said with a smile, "That person of hers is barbaric and arrogant. She's the most unpresentable, but as soon as the Fu left, she wanted to hold a banquet and invite so many noble madams and young misses. Could it be that you really don't understand at all? Don't tell me it's Wang Yi." Pan Qiu's eyes were watery and her cheeks were red. She seemed drunk. Yes. Yao Clan laughed and said, "You can ask around. Other than you, who else was asked to stay in this residence?" Pan Qiu was like a lively little rabbit. Her heart was beating so fast that it couldn't be counted. Blushing, she lowered her head and said, "But I heard that when the princess consort came to the capital, she also stayed in this residence. She doesn't count." Yao Clan said, "You can only look at the others." At that time, she was affected by court affairs. It had nothing to do with her private feelings. Pan Qiu's heart beat faster. Was it true? Thinking of that tall and handsome man, she didn't even have the courage to look into his eyes. That arrogant and domineering temperament. He wouldn't bow down in front of a woman, right? Maybe he really wanted to give her a legitimate identity, so he arranged for the princess consort to organize this flower banquet. Thinking up to this point, Pan Qiu was extremely excited and proud. Father said that her family could give Pang Xiao what she needed most now. With the help of her family, her future in the Wang family would be bright. And with her in the Wang family, would the Pan family be unable to defeat that wild girl Qiu Feishan? They just needed to unite the strong and benefit each other. Pan Qiu said with a smile, "Old madam is really the most resourceful. Things I didn't understand, you actually figured it out in the blink of an eye. If it weren't for your advice, I would still be like a headless fly." Yao Clan shook his head indifferently and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. It's a small matter. In the future, behind closed doors will be family. Why are you still so polite?" These words made Pan Qiu's face redden even more. After Pan Qiu returned to her room, she ordered the servants to send a set of jade head ornaments to the Yao Clan. Yao Clan loved it so much that she asked the servants to help her comb her hair and try it on. Qin Yining told Jingzhe, "Take some people and be careful. Spread the news that I'm going to hold a flower banquet in Changchun Garden in 3 days and invite all the noble ladies of the right age. Be careful not to let others find out that it's us who said it." "Yes, I'll go now." Jingzhe was the most familiar with this kind of thing. He was used to it when he was at the side of the dying emperor. Rumors quickly spread in the old capital. In a corner that Qin Yining didn't pay attention to, Prince Zhongshuan's consort was going to hold a flower banquet in Changchun Garden. The purpose was to select a secondary consort for Prince Zhongshuan. The news was spread, and everyone knew about it. Many local officials, aristocrats, and even their families heard the news and were somewhat moved. Among these people, a large number of them had long wanted to make friends with Pang Xiao, but couldn't find a way to do so. They were all interested in the flower banquet in Changchun Garden. 3 days later, Qin Yining had already set up Changchun Garden and instructed his subordinates. "I didn't send out an invitation for today's banquet. Anyone can enter. Don't stop them. Just maintain the security of this area." Thus, those who wanted to make friends with Pang Xiao or those who wanted their daughters to serve in the prince's residence didn't encounter any obstructions when they came to Changchun Garden. Changchun Garden was the place where the empress of the previous dynasty brought people to hold banquets. The prosperity of the previous dynasty had long declined. Now that it was renovated, it was just like the imperial palace in the old capital. Anyone could come. Qin Yining came here to revisit the place. She was there when the demon empress held a banquet. Moreover, Ning Garden, which wasn't far from Changchun Garden, was one of her properties. During the famine, she had taken care of many refugees in Ning Garden. Most of those disaster victims had now become the backbone of her manor. Wang Fei, there are many people gathered outside. Bing Tang quickly walked in to report. Ji Yin craned her neck to look outside. She said with a smile, "Wang Fei didn't send out an invitation and didn't say a specific time. She only said it was today. Look outside. So many people came early in the morning." Qin Yining was wearing a light blue jacket with arrow sleeves and a white 8-piece skirt. She was facing the mirror and putting a silver hairpin into her hair. The so-called 100-flower banquet, everyone naturally thinks that they are here to look at the flowers. Naturally, they can only see it clearly under the sun. No wonder they came early. Qiu Lu heard the strangeness and said with a smile, "Is Wang Fei not planning to look at the flowers?" "Of course it is to look at the flowers." Qin Yining stood and said with a smile, "Look at the young misses outside. They are all at the age of flowers. Are they not flowers? Chapter 836. Of course, it's not just that. It's boring if we're idle. Today, the talented women of the various families have come, so they definitely have to perform. When the time comes, we'll have many beautiful songs and dances to watch. Isn't that good? Ji Yin said with a smile. Xian Yin said with a smile. That's a good idea. Poems and songs are beautiful, but the human heart is even more beautiful. Yes. Qin Yining nodded with a smile. For today's banquet, who is willing to come, who is unwilling to come, who is close to whom, who is at odds with whom, these were all things that could be observed. With the current situation in front of them, Pang Zhao's people were entrenched in the south. They naturally had to think of a way to stabilize the local situation in order to plan for the future. If there was a chance to let her rule Yi and help Pang Zhao, why not? Wang Fei, the people outside have all gone to find their own seats. The pergolas we set up may not be enough. Qiu Lu quickly walked in to reply. Qin Yining thought for a moment and said, There's not enough time to set up a temporary pergola. Then let's add some seats on the outside. But the order of the seats, we don't need to worry about that. Qin Yining explained, the local tycoons and officials should all be familiar with each other. The seats will naturally be arranged. It's better to let them sit by themselves than us arranging it. It will also prevent them from inadvertently bumping into people. Wang Fei is right. Qiu Lu realized and went to arrange it. Qin Yining saw that it was about time and called for someone to walk outside. Changchun Garden had been rebuilt and many flowers and trees had been transplanted. The originally magnificent building appeared even more magnificent under the cover of the new flowers and trees. Qin Yining was dressed in plain clothes as he walked through the flowers and trees with a servant girl. They quickly arrived at the banquet venue. Even though many local people did not recognize Qin Yining, this did not prevent them from investigating Qin Yining's background before coming. When they saw the person dressed in simple and elegant clothing walking through the flowers and willows, the chatter of the male and female guests all fell silent. Those who had met Qin Yining a few times stepped forward with a smile. Greetings, Your Highness. Long time no see, Your Highness. Qin Yining greeted these people with a smile, saying that he had not been a good host and asked everyone to make themselves at home. At this time, the Yao clan, Ma clan, and Yao Qinggu arrived from the main entrance accompanied by the Wang family. As soon as Yao Qinggu entered, he was surrounded by male guests who politely greeted and chatted with him. The members of the Yao clan supported Ma Shi with Pan Qiu by their side. They walked all the way to Qin Yining's side amidst the greetings of the women. Qin Yining smiled and bowed. Grandmother, old madam. Yes. Mrs. Mon nodded with a smile. The members of the Yao clan were dressed in rose-red narrow-sleeved, round-collared robes with a phoenix mouth and pearls on their heads. They looked extremely luxurious. When they saw Qin Yining dressed so simply, they couldn't help but chuckle. For such a festive occasion, you need to put more effort into dressing up. Don't ruin the reputation of the Wang family. If someone says that the Wang family can't even afford to buy a set of good clothes, then wouldn't the Dai Fu be wronged? There were many guests who were attending the banquet just a few steps away. At this time, they couldn't help but perk up their ears to listen to the commotion. It seemed that the relationship between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law of the Wang family was not good. Seeing that the Yao clan disrespected Qin Yining regardless of the occasion, Ma Shi was displeased. She smiled and pulled Qin Yining's hand, looking her up and down. This outfit is very simple and elegant. The material is also embroidered, right? Qin Yining smiled and said, yes. The smiles on the Yao clan's faces froze. They had just mocked her for not putting effort into dressing up and dressing shabbily, but now they were refuted on the spot. The Yao clan felt their ears heat up. Ma Shi smiled and said, our sister, Yi, is born well. Everything she wears is good. The people around originally had some intention to talk, but now they all stopped. It was said that the old madam of the Wang family was a tough person. It seemed that the Wang Fei and the old madam had a very good relationship. Pan Qiu's beautiful eyes were also looking at Qin Yining. Her eyes were too lively and too disdainful. Chin Ening couldn't ignore her even if he wanted to. Chin Ening glanced at Pan Kiyu. When his eyes fell on the pinkish-blue Sichuan brocade on Pan Kiyu's body, he lowered his head as if ashamed of his inferiority. Pan Kiyu's heart moved. She couldn't hide her pride and said with a smile, "The Wang Fei is still in mourning. It's normal for her to dress plainly. Old madam, don't blame her." As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. They had long heard that wise Pan and had failed your majesty's task and lost his life. Your majesty was already very kind to not punish him. Logically speaking, it was absolutely unreasonable for your daughter to hold a banquet wantonly when her father had just died. The people of the country all valued filial piety. It was rare to see someone who could still have the mood to have fun during the mourning period. Ma Shi frowned and glared at Pan Kiyu unhappily. The Yao clan's mood turned better. Just as they were about to criticize Chin Ening said first, "If it weren't for Wang Ye's matter, there wouldn't be this banquet today. To be honest, I won't stay for long. I'll leave after seeing some important things. As a wife, I have to be considerate. I think my father's spirit in heaven will be able to understand. As for the reception, I'll have to trouble old madam to take care of everything later." As he said this, he respectfully bowed. Ma Shi was afraid that the Yao clan's nonsense would smear Chin Ening's reputation, so she quickly said, "Good child, it's really hard on you. When men do things, it's hard to be loyal and filial. It's hard to be a man, and it's even harder to be a woman. You have to take care of your family and our family. It's really hard on you." Many of the women folk were moved when they heard this, especially those who were married and were in charge of the family. The world's requirements for women were too strict. The rules were set by men, and the ones who were wronged were always women. Looking at the relationship between the princess consort and her mother-in-law, if it wasn't for her mother-in-law forcing her, she probably wouldn't have to hold a banquet during the mourning period to choose a secondary concubine for her husband. Everyone felt a bit more sympathy for Chin Ening. The Yao clan rolled their eyes. They were very unhappy that they didn't succeed in slandering Chin Ening in front of everyone. "Princess consort, Boss Chiu is here." Chiu Lu whispered in Chin Ening's ear. Chin Ening looked back and said, "Bring some people to greet her. She's heavy. Be careful not to let anyone bump into her." "Yes," Chiu Lu responded and brought 2 young maidservants to greet her. At this time, the noble ladies who wanted to marry into the Pang family brought their daughters and nieces over to chat. Ma Shi looked at the circle of people and felt a headache coming on. There were so many women, each as beautiful as a flower bud, and they were all dressed up very carefully. At a glance, she felt that all of them were beautiful. Wouldn't she be dazzled by them? Ma Shi suddenly felt a little uneasy. She pulled Chin Ening, who was chatting with others, to the side and whispered, "Little E, why do I feel that things are not good? Do you think your majesty's harem was like this during the beauty pageant?" Chin Ening nodded approvingly and said, "Grandma, your mind is sharp and observant. I thought of this, but don't worry, things won't develop like that." Ma Shi saw that Chin Ening was so confident and was sure that he wouldn't go overboard. She couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said, "Okay, little E, you're the most reliable. Just make the arrangements." Chin Ening nodded with a smile. "Greetings, princess consort." At this time, Chiu Feishan walked in front of Chin Ening under the protection of Chiu Lu and the others. She was wearing an ivory-white chest-length dress, and her belly was bulging. Her handsome face was now much gentler, and her smile was also gentle. Chin Ening smiled and said, "Mrs. Mu, there's no need to be so polite. There are many people here, let's sit aside." Chiu Feishan held her slightly sore waist with one hand and nodded with a smile. At this time, Pan Kiyu was introducing her parents to the Yao clan. Father Pan and Mother Pan were smooth and slick people in the business world. With a few words, they closed the relationship between the Yao clan and the Yao clan. They also casually said that they had just arranged for someone to send a generous gift to their door. The Yao clan was so happy that they couldn't close their mouths and praised Pan Kiyu repeatedly. Father Pan and Mother Pan were overjoyed. They felt that the alliance between them and Pang Xiao was about to be formed. Pan Qiu was even more proud. She was young and beautiful, and Wang Yi liked her. Although the old madam didn't like the princess consort, the old madam liked her very much. Pan Qiu only felt that the days after entering the Wang family were full of expectations. The smile on her face became more and more confident. Her back straightened and her chin was slightly raised. Her whole person exuded an unprecedented brilliance. From the corner of her eye, she saw Qin Yining talking to Qiu Feishan and immediately poked Father Pan's arm. Father Pan saw Qiu Feishan and sneered. He first cupped his hands to the Yao clan and said, "Old madam, this old man will take his leave first." The Yao clan had to deal with the flattery of many people. Naturally, they didn't have the time to pay attention to any one person, so they just waved their hands. Mr. Pan walked to Qin Yining with his wife and daughter and bowed respectfully. "Thank you. Greetings to the princess consort. This old man is Pan Jinxing. This is my wife, Su Shi, and this is my daughter, Qiu. We pay our respects to the princess consort." Pan Qiu reluctantly followed her parents and bowed to Qin Yining. Qin Yining said with a smile, "No need for formalities. Shopkeeper Pan is willing to take the time to come, so you must have a good time. It just so happens that the owner of Four-Way Shop is also here." As he said this, he slightly leaned to the side, indicating that Qiu Feishan was beside him. Originally, when the Qiu family was still a complete family, Four-Way Shop was only one of the many businesses under the Qiu family. Qiu Feishan was naturally the head shopkeeper of Four-Way Shop. But now that the Qiu family was divided, Four-Way Shop was owned by Qiu Feishan. Naturally, Qiu Feishan was the owner of Four-Way Shop. When Father Pan heard this, he frowned. He was the head shopkeeper of Four-Way Shop, but Qiu Feishan was his boss. Pan Jinxing was unwilling to bow down to others, especially when Qiu Feishan was a woman. Pan Jinxing already had a rebellious heart. He wanted to take Qiu Feishan down and become the owner of Four-Way Shop. Therefore, he looked for Prince Zhongshuan to be his backing. Now that he saw the princess consort, the first thing she said was that he was Qiu Feishan's subordinate. Wasn't this making him lose face? Pan Jinxing was unhappy, but he didn't dare to offend Qin Yining. So, he turned to Qiu Feishan and said, "Oh, so the eldest miss is also here." The eldest miss is not in good health right now, so it's better if you don't move around casually. If you affect the baby and hurt it, I'm afraid it'll be too late for regrets. Chapter 837. As a subordinate, speaking to his boss with such an attitude was already not an ordinary act of insolence. Qin Yining was unhappy, and his eyes turned cold. Qiu Feishan smiled faintly. "It seems that Shopkeeper Pan's ambition is getting bigger and bigger. I don't dare. It's not that I'm ambitious, but this old one is thinking about the future of Sitong's shop. I can't bear to see the years of hard work destroyed. If the subordinates are willing to listen to my orders, then there won't be a problem." Qiu Feishan raised the corner of her mouth in ridicule. What does Shopkeeper Pan say? The atmosphere between the two suddenly became tense. Pan Qiu looked at Qiu Feishan, and then looked at Qin Yining, and instigated, "It seems that Shopkeeper Qiu doesn't respect the princess. In such a big occasion, you still argue with others for your own private matters. Aren't you afraid of disturbing the princess's banquet? It's obvious that you have ulterior motives and deliberately came to make trouble." Qin Yining's face turned cold. "Miss Pan, I'm afraid you don't have the right to speak here." Pan Qiu had been praised for too long, and she was proud. In addition, Pang Xiao was interested in her, and old madam also valued her. She already thought that she had one foot in the door of the Pang family. Naturally, she had the right to speak. Who would have thought that Qin Yining would embarrass her on the spot? Pan Qiu's face turned red with anger. She gritted her teeth and looked at Qin Yining, her pair of beautiful eyes narrowed. Qin Yining said, "What? You're not convinced?" Pan Jinxing saw his daughter being questioned, so he immediately said, "What do you mean, princess?" Qin Yining ignored Pan Jinxing and only asked Pan Qiu, "Miss Pan, tell me, what kind of occasion is this, And what identity do you have to speak on behalf of this king's wife? The noise here was so big that the people around couldn't help but quiet down and gather around. Even a male guest had noticed the commotion and started to pay attention to it. Pan Kiyu's face was purple and his eyes were red with anger. He had never been wronged since he was a child. Now, Qin Yining dared to humiliate him in front of his face. How could Pan Kiyu tolerate this? Don't make things difficult for me just because of your status. Pan Kiyu gritted her teeth and moved closer to Qin Yining. Look carefully. What kind of occasion is this? Although you are a Wang Fei, Wang Yi has been in charge of external affairs for many years. You still have to make a living in the hands of your mother-in-law. Old Madam values me and doesn't like you. You have to learn how to behave with your tail between your legs. That way, I might be able to put in a few good words for you in front of Wang Yi in the future. Qin Yining was furious. He looked aggrieved and said agitatedly, "What are you talking about? You've only stayed in the guest courtyard of the prince's mansion for 2 days. Do you think you're the mistress of the house? What qualifications do you have to make me tuck my tail between my legs? What face do you have to put in a few good words for me in front of Wang Yi?" Pan Kiyu saw that Qin Yining was trembling with anger. His face was pale and weak. She then looked at Qin Yining's plain clothes and sneered. "Why? Because my mother's family can help Wang Yi. Because Wang Yi said that you should obediently hold a banquet and let me marry into the family. Don't tell me you don't have any idea. Do you think you're still the daughter of a minister? You, guards, take her away." Qin Yining was humiliated. His slender body trembled like an autumn leaf being destroyed by the cold wind. The Yao clan watched coldly. When they saw that the guards behind Qin Yining were about to step forward, they immediately shouted angrily, "Who dares?" The guards accompanying the prince's mansion naturally didn't dare to rashly disobey the Yao clan's orders and stopped in their tracks. However, the silver-masked spy didn't care about this. Jing Zhe and Xiao Shui strode forward and grabbed Pan Kiyu's arms from both sides. "Ah!" Pan Kiyu screamed. The strength of these two hands was so strong that her entire arm was sore. She had never suffered this kind of pain before. She was so angry that she was about to ascend to the heavens. Her parents were behind her, and she also had the old madam's support. Would she be afraid of this woman who had lost her family's backing? "Qin Yining, I advise you to restrain yourself. Who do you think you are? In the future, Wang Yi will dump you like a pair of used shoes. If you let me go now and apologize to me, I won't hold a grudge against you. I'll even talk to Wang Yi and give you a place to stay. Otherwise, you'll be divorced and sent home." The Yao clan also said, "Qin clan, let her go. You don't even listen to your mother-in-law's words." Qin Yining was silent. The people around them were also silent. Many of the matriarchs couldn't stand Pan Kiyu, who was trying to climb up the social ladder and disrespected the first wife, but most of them were just watching the show. Mrs. Ma was so angry that she didn't know what to do. She pulled Qin Yining behind her and pointed at the Yao clan and Pan Kiyu. "You two step back. Don't you know what kind of occasion this is?" Mrs. Ma was a martial artist, but she wasn't a quick-witted person who knew how to bicker. Qin Yining felt sorry for Mrs. Ma and patted her on the shoulder to comfort her. Mrs. Ma turned around and said tenderly, "Little, don't take it to heart. Daifu isn't that kind of person. Grandma, don't worry." "I know." Qin Yining walked around Mrs. Ma and took 2 steps forward. At this moment, the Yao clan was surprised to find that Qin Yining's anger and grievance when she was provoked and scolded, as well as the weakness that made people want to bully her and step on her a few times, had all disappeared. The corners of her lips were slightly raised, and her back was straight as a pine tree. Her entire aura had become strong and confident. She was no longer the weak woman who was dejected at the beginning of the banquet when a Yao clan mocked her for not dressing up well. The Yao clan frowned and had a bad feeling in their hearts. For a moment, they didn't speak. Pan Kiyu, on the other hand, only felt that she had been provoked. "Don't be smug. When Wang Yi comes back and finds out that I've been wronged, you'll know what's going to happen to you." "Oh." Qin Yining smiled. Her expression was no longer angry and her voice was no longer raised. Instead, it was gentle and soothing as usual. "Do you think you still have a chance?" Pan Kiyu was furious. "What do you mean? Qin Yining didn't want to speak more with Pan Qiu and loudly said, Miss Pan dared to insult this king's consort. Everyone present can be a witness. Come, slap her mouth for me. Yes. Ji Yin immediately responded. She rolled up her sleeves and walked forward. Without caring about anything else, she raised her hand and ruthlessly slapped Pan Qiu's face. Pan Qiu's ears buzzed from the slap. She was dazed from the slap. Before she could speak, a second slap came down. Ji Yin slapped her left and right. Pan Qiu's cheeks looked swollen. The loud applause shocked everyone. All the male and female guests in the courtyard, whether it was the upper-class madams or the young misses who were interested in Pang Xiao, were all stunned. Pan Qiu saw stars from a slap. Blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth, and she scolded with her tongue out, "Vicious whore! When Wang Yi comes back, he'll skin you alive." Qin Yining coldly said, "You still don't know how to repent?" Turning to the ashen-faced Pan Jinxing and Mother Pan, Qin Yining said, "Since the two of you can't discipline your daughters, this king's consort will have to spend some effort to discipline them." Ji Yin continued, "Let her know the consequences of seducing my husband when I'm not around." Yes, princess consort. Ji Yin was even more merciless. It was only then that everyone understood. This was probably the main point, right? The princess consort had done it on purpose. She purposely showed weakness and let Pan Qiu be proud. She purposely caused Pan Qiu to insult her and then rightfully punish her. What 100-flower banquet? The main course of this banquet was clearly a face-slapping performance for the 100 flowers to let all the unmarried young misses and their families know the consequences of seducing Wang Yi. With such a domineering and jealous mistress of the household, who would dare to send their daughter to be a concubine? Pan Jinxing's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, but he gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. Beside him, his wife, Madame Su, was already sobbing and scolding. "Do you think you're so great just because you're the princess consort? Do you think you can trample on other people's daughters as you wish? Stop it, stop it." Madame Su rushed forward and wanted to stop Ji Yin. But before she could take 2 steps, she was stopped by Xiao Shui. "Mrs. Pan, you should reconsider. Miss Pan seduced Wang Yi. You should reflect on yourself first." Pan Jinxing pursed his lips and pulled Madame Su back. He whispered, "Do you still want the family to be good? Don't say anything else." Obviously, Pan Jinxing valued the cooperation with Pang Xiao more. Even if he hated Qin Yining for bullying Pan Qiu, he couldn't give up the opportunity to cooperate. This was also what Qin Yining had expected. It was just like the children of 2 families fighting with their faces covered in dirt. Could it be that the adults didn't want to discuss business that would determine success or failure? Qin Yining waited for Ji Yin to slap her 40 times before he said, "Stop. Hand Miss Pan over to Mrs. Pan. Bring her back and teach her well." Pan Qiu was in so much pain that she almost fainted. At this moment, even if she wanted to curse, she couldn't open her mouth. She was pushed to Pan Jinxing and Madame Su. Pan Jinxing left with his wife and daughter with an ashen face. Yao Clan gritted her teeth and said, "Qin Clan, look at what you've done. I'm going to divorce you. My Pang family can't afford to have a domineering daughter-in-law like you. My marriage with Wang Yi was personally arranged by your majesty. If you want to divorce me, please inform your majesty. As long as your majesty agrees, I will leave immediately." Yao Clan was so angry that she almost fainted. Your majesty couldn't wait to capture Pang Zhao's family as hostages. Did she dare to go? Qin Yining looked around and saw that everyone was looking at her. He laughed and said, "Originally, I wanted to invite everyone to come and admire the flowers. I wanted to have fun and get to know everyone. I also bought a large number of fireworks. I want to see what the river of fireworks looks like when night falls." When everyone heard Qin Yining say this, those who reacted quickly had already echoed his words. They tried to make the stiff scene lively. But at this time, everyone was thinking the same thing. Who would believe it? This Wang Fei was clearly establishing her prestige in front of all the potential concubines of Wang Yi. She wanted everyone to know how powerful she was. Pan Qiu's slaps were equivalent to slapping the faces of all the women who wanted to enter the Wang Fu. If any good girl was sent to the Wang Fu and met such a fierce woman, they probably wouldn't live long enough to earn wealth for their family. Chapter 838. In everyone's eyes, Qin Yining's practice was deviant and rebellious, especially daring to challenge her mother-in-law and asking her mother-in-law to ask Your Majesty to divorce her daughter-in-law. This was even more unheard of, not to mention that she was defending her only position by her husband's side in front of everyone. All the male guests were frowning in disdain at her jealousy and rudeness. Many of the womenfolk were whispering and judging. But although those women's words were full of disdain and contempt for Qin Yining's womanly virtues, they were vaguely envious in their hearts. Because Qin Yining did what they didn't dare to do, those who were more meticulous would think even more deeply about it. Why did Qin Yining have the courage to do this? Wasn't it because someone was backing her up? Her father had just passed away, so who else would be able to support her? It wasn't just one person who had this thought, including the Sun clan and the Ma clan. They also thought of Pang Xiao. In the eyes of all the womenfolk, if it wasn't for her husband's instructions, which woman would dare to do this in public and annoy her husband's family? The lively 100-flower banquet quietly dispersed after a fierce face-slapping. When the first guest left, a second one came. In less than an hour, everyone had already left, leaving only Qiu Feishan sitting in the corridor in the distance, enjoying the shade and eating snacks. Yao Clan's entire body was trembling with anger, her face ashen. She had just found Pang Xiao a concubine with good looks and good temperament. But Qin Yining had already messed things up like this. This woman didn't even care about her face and dared to challenge her in public. If she didn't teach her a lesson today, how could she have a foothold in the circle of noble women in the future? Wouldn't the world know that she couldn't control her daughter-in-law? Kneel down for me. Yao Clan violently smashed the teacup next to him. The broken pieces of the teacup splashed at Qin Yining's feet. If he continued to kneel like this, his knees would definitely be broken. Before Qin Yining could do anything, Madame Ma stepped forward and slowly pulled the Yao Clan aside. She took Qin Yining's hand and led her to a shady spot under the grape trellis. Alas, did Dai Fu ask you to do what you did today? Dai Fu is really too much. He wants to do something, but he doesn't consider your situation. If you act like this, you will be criticized in the future. He won't be the one being criticized behind his back. In the face of such a gentle and considerate Mrs. Ma, Qin Yining felt uneasy. How could he bear to deceive her? Grandma, don't think so highly of me. I was the one who did it. It had nothing to do with Wang Yi. I can't blame mother-in-law for being angry, and I can't blame others for criticizing me. I am indeed jealous. Qin Yining lowered his head. It wasn't easy for Wang Yi and I to get to where we are today. We have been through so much together to become the perfect Wang Yi that we are today. None of those women have gone through a near-death experience. None of them have participated in Wang Ye's life. None of them have helped Wang Yi, and none of them love Wang Yi as much as I do. Yet they want to pick up the ready-made fruit. Qin Yining raised his head with a determined expression. There were tears in his eyes, and he said stubbornly, "They don't have the right to enjoy this fruit. Regardless of whether Wang Yi is perfect or not, he can become like this because I participated in his life. I have sacrificed so much, and Wang Yi is the perfect Wang Yi today. Why should I share such a good man with others?" Qin Yining's words left Mrs. Ma speechless for a moment. Was he criticizing her for being so willful? Or was he lecturing her for not being a woman? But which madam in an ordinary family had suffered so much because of her husband's family? Qin Yining said that other women didn't have the right to pick up the ready-made fruit. This was true. This was because her grandmother and the mother of the Yao clan had always been in a position of protection. Only Qin Yining, a girl who was not even 20 years old, had always been with Pang Xiao. Including this time when they were evacuating from the capital, it was also Qin Yining who protected them. She sent them out first, but she herself was trapped in a group of bandits. It was obvious what those ferocious bandits would do to such a beautiful girl. If Pang Xiao hadn't arrived in time, things would have developed to a point of no return. The Yao clan wasn't standing far away. so they naturally heard Qin Yining's words clearly. She pointed at Qin Yining with her pink-painted nails. "You thick-skinned, vicious whore. How can you have a nerve to absolve yourself? Isn't it because you're thick-skinned and shameless? You didn't learn from female scholars. It's really bad for a girl like you to grow up in the wild, without a good person teach you. Look at how arrogant you are." The Yao clan's scolding was harsh, but Qin Yining didn't take it to heart. She didn't even listen to the content of the scolding and only treated it as a dog barking. Mrs. Ma turned around and glared at the Yao clan. "Shut up, don't talk so much. Mother, what kind of bewitching potion did she give you? Why do you still side with her and protect her after she did such a shameless thing? If you don't discipline her now, who knows what she'll do in the future? Maybe she'll strangle me, her mother-in-law, to death. Enough. Do you think everyone is like you?" The Yao clan looked at Mrs. Ma in disbelief. For a moment, they were so angry that their hearts hurt and they couldn't speak. Yao Chenggu strode over with a sullen face. "In any case, what the Qin clan did today is too much. It's really shameful. How can there be a daughter-in-law who dares to talk back to her mother-in-law in public?" Mrs. Ma said, "This is a matter between Dai Fu and Sister Yi. Can you two stay out of it?" Yao Chenggu pulled a long face and said in a deep voice, "It's none of your business. If you side with an outsider again, I won't be polite to you." "Oh," Mrs. Ma laughed. "You won't be polite to me?" Yao Chenggu's body, face, and bones hurt from her laughter. Yao Chenggu was afraid of Mrs. Ma, so he could only turn to Qin Yining. "Dai Fu isn't at home. Today, I'll make the decision to open the ancestral hall and divorce you. I'll explain to your majesty later. I think your majesty wouldn't want to see a daughter-in-law like you in Dai Fu's family." "Yao Chenggu, you're crazy." Mrs. Ma was furious. Qin Yining tilted his head. "Old master, when you say open the ancestral hall, do you mean open the ancestral hall of your Yao clan?" Yao Chenggu's face was dark. "You," Yao clan hurriedly said, "of course, it's the ancestral hall of the Pang family." "Oh," Qin Yining smiled. "The Pang family has withered. As far as I know, the only woman qualified to open the ancestral hall is me." Yao clan was flustered and exasperated. "Do you think I'm dead?" "Of course not. But who are you to open the ancestral hall of the Pang family?" "You." The biggest stain in Yao clan's life was that they used dishonorable means to climb into Pang Zhongjing's bed when he was drunk. They even almost lost their lives because of it. Mrs. Ma had poked her in the back countless times. As long as she made a mistake, she would beat her and scold her. 8 out of 10 times, she would scold her for climbing into Pang Zhongjing's bed. Unexpectedly, Qin Yining, as her daughter-in-law, looked down on her. Look at what this bitch is saying." Yao Chenggu stomped his feet angrily. Mrs. Ma also felt uncomfortable, but she didn't blame Qin Yining. She blamed the Yao clan. If she had been upright, how could she have been the subject of ridicule? Yao clan was so angry that they wanted to tear apart Qin Yining. Mrs. Ma said, "Enough. Haven't you lost enough face?" "Mother," Yao clan roared. "As an elder, you should behave. Don't always bring those things you learned to the family. That's enough. Go back." Yao clan suffered a great grievance. She was humiliated by Qin Yining, but her mother refused to stand up for her. The more she thought about it, the sadder she felt. Tears fell down her face. She covered her face, turned around, and ran away. Yao Chenggu fiercely dodged. He didn't dare to argue with Mrs. Ma. He was afraid that she would directly hit him. He could only point at Qin Yining and say, "When Dai Fu comes back, I will definitely ask for an explanation." Yao Chenggu said and left. Yao Chenggu was a smart person. He knew what Qin Yining cared about the most. Qin Yining cared about Pang Xiao. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done such a thing today. Since she was a jealous woman, she was naturally worried that Pang Xiao would be annoyed. However, Qin Yining had never been a vine that clung to men. She was a towering tree. She had her own opinions and the ability to survive. After sacrificing her body, mind, and even life, she hoped to be treated kindly. If she couldn't, she would rather not be treated. However, although she was determined, she was still worried. Yao Chenggu's words were more offensive than the Yao clan's scolding of her 1,000 times. Mrs. Ma saw Qin Yining's expression and sighed. Little E, you're a sensible person. I won't say anything unnecessary. Grandmother, I won't go against old master and old madam in the future either. It's really my fault today. I shouldn't have said such hurtful words. Qin Yining bowed to Mrs. Ma sincerely. As the biological mother of the Yao clan, it was impossible for Mrs. Ma not to feel uncomfortable when the Yao clan's character was questioned. However, Qin Yining apologized so sincerely in front of her and even promised that she wouldn't do it again in the future. Mrs. Ma's heart ached even more. Okay. Grandma knows that you're angry and have been forced into a corner. Even a rabbit will bite when it's desperate, right? Your mother-in-law took after her father. She was smart and opinionated since she was young. She knew what she wanted, and she did it by hook or by crook. If you talk about the wrong things she did back then, as her mother, it's also my fault. I didn't study much and didn't teach her well. Grandmother, don't say that. There are too many temptations. After a long time, it's easy for her to be led astray. I can't blame you for that. Mrs. Ma shook her head and thought about how she had too many regrets in her life. Little E, that's all I'll be like this for the rest of my life. I'm not successful as a mother or a wife. Although I have a clear conscience and have no regrets, there are still some regrets that can't be made up for in a lifetime. Listen to me, don't leave any regrets. Mrs. Ma patted the back of Qin Yining's hand and was about to go home. Qin Yining was very upset. How did such a good Mrs. Ma end up with such a family? Chapter 839. Qin Yining stepped forward and held Madame Yao's arm. Grandma, Wang Yi ordered people to pick up the 2 children. They will arrive in a few days. I have a lot of things to do and have no experience in taking care of children. Although I have a wet nurse to take care of me, it's not as good as my own people. Can you come to my place more often and help me? Do you still need to ask? Madame Ma answered readily and said with a smile, Even if you don't want me to go, I will go. Those 2 children are very doting, and they will call me great-grandma. Is that so? Then what do they call my grandma? The 2 of you. Aren't they confusing the way they address you? No, they won't. Madame Zheng taught them very well. The 2 children call her great-grandma and call me great-grandma. They are not confused at all, and they are very close to us. You will know when you see them. Qin Yining nodded with a smile. Those 2 treasures are her flesh and blood. She can't wait. If it weren't for the tense situation and they had to be separated, the 2 children would call her mother now. Just thinking about it, Qin Yining couldn't help but have some rebellious thoughts. Qin Yining sent Madame Ma to the carriage. When they returned to Changchun Garden, Jian said, Wang Fei, do you still want to watch fireworks tonight? No. Qin Yining shook her head. It's just a suggestion. The fireworks from our shop will be sent back to be sold. It's not a big day, so there's no need to make any fireworks. Yes. Jian nodded and immediately went to arrange it. The big Changchun Garden was very noisy just now, but now it was unusually quiet. Qin Yining stood in a daze, and her body and mind seemed to be able to relax. Qiu Feishan was supported by Bing and Qiu Lu to come closer. Wang Fei, what are you thinking about? Qin Yining came back to her senses and shook her head with a smile. Nothing. I just let you see a joke today. It's nothing. Every family has its difficulties. Although you are well off, you have suffered a lot of grievances. Qiu Feishan said, In fact, looking at it this way, I'm much better. At least I don't have a mother-in-law who would embarrass me. Qin Yining couldn't say much about this matter, but he couldn't help thinking that although Qiu Feishan didn't have a mother-in-law, she had a sherbua like Tianjizi. One Tianjizi was harder to deal with than 100 Yao clan members. Qin Yining couldn't help but look at Qiu Feishan's tired face and bulging belly. It wasn't easy for her. Qin Yining felt sympathy for her. He smiled and said, You've been living alone at home these days, and Wang Yi has also gone out. If you don't mind, why don't you come to my residence as a guest? We can keep each other company and take care of each other. You don't have a reliable female elder by your side. I happen to have experience in this area. I can help you with some things. At least I can share my experience with you. Qin Yining said a lot, but in fact, the last sentence moved Xiao Feishan the most. She really didn't have any elders to ask. Although she had money to hire a mama, it wasn't as convenient as asking someone she was familiar with. Xiao Feishan was a bit shaken. Is it convenient in your residence? Will I disturb you too much if I go? No. Although the courtyard isn't as big as the previous residence, there's still guest rooms and enough people. You're now pregnant. If you don't have a caring person by your side at home, it won't be a good thing. It's better to stay with me. When Xiao Feishan heard this, she nodded. Then I'll disturb you. Qin Yining smiled and said, What kind of disturbance is this? I'm happy that you're willing to come. I'm bored at home. Xiao Feishan ordered people to prepare her daily necessities and send them to the prince's mansion. Then she went down the mountain with Qin Yining and went back to the prince's mansion by car. Qin Yining directly sent Xiao Feishan to the guest room in the front yard. After sitting in the guest room for a while, before Qin Yining had time to go back to the room, Lian Xiaozhou ran to tell Qin Yining, Sister, Madame Dowager was beaten by Madame Dowager with a cane. Qin Yining was shocked. How could this be? Why did you inquire about it? Lian Xiaozhou said, I heard it secretly. It seemed that Madame Dowager had secretly received a gift from someone and promised to do something for that person. Madame Dowager knew it and got angry. She scolded Madame Dowager for selling her son. This word has been spread all over the family. Qin Yining was helpless for a moment. She didn't need to think to know that it must be because of the relationship between the Yao clan and Pan Qiu. The Yao clan didn't seem to be good to anyone for no reason. She treated Pan Qiu so specially, so the Pan family must have given her a lot of benefits. In order to be friends with Pang Xiao, the Pan family had paid a lot of money. But the idea was wrong. But thinking that Madame Ma beat the Yao clan, Qin Yining cared about Madame Ma after all. The Yao clan was Madame Ma's biological daughter. If they always got along with each other like this, they might become enemies in the future. At that time, Madame Ma would be the one suffering. Qin Yining stood up and wanted to persuade her. But after taking 2 steps, she stopped again. The Yao clan was beaten. They definitely wouldn't reflect on their own behavior. Instead, they would put all the blame on others. If she went, it would be inevitable that Yao Shi would fly into a rage. If she scolded her in front of Ma Shi, would it not have the effect of persuading her and would only cause Ma Shi to become even angrier? Thinking of this, Qin Yining sat back helplessly. Just at this time, the maid came back. Princess, Mr. Xie and Mr. Su want to see you. Qin Yining had expected that these two would come. They must have heard about what happened to Chang Chunyuan today. As the 2 most capable counselors of Pang Xiao, they must be very concerned. Percent Pang Xiao set out with the cavalry in the name of suppressing bandits, so it didn't attract anyone's attention. Anyway, with the South Pacifying Army, the bandits in the old capital and the surrounding areas would be much quieter. Everyone was very happy. Pang Xiao led a group of people to travel day and night. With the fastest speed, they arrived at a place half a day away from Pun Road. Pang Xiao immediately arranged for a scout to scout ahead. Go and see if the other side has made arrangements. If we are late, this king will think of another way. If we are early, it will be better. Yes. The group stopped to reorganize when the scout went to scout ahead. But the news the scout brought back was very surprising. Wang Yi, there are no arrangements on Pun Road. I heard from the people in the tea shop that there was a big fire last night in Pun Town not far away. The Chiu clan has a courtyard in Pun Town. It was burned to ashes overnight. Many people died. The local government has been busy dealing with this matter. There are very few people on Pun Road. Oh, Pang Xiao raised his eyebrows in surprise. Such a thing happened so close to Pun Road. It was hard for Pang Xiao not to think. Did Qiu Yuanqing's subordinates eat chaff? How could someone actually burn down their house when it was perfectly fine? Wang Yi, what do we do now? Huzi asked, his brow furrowed. Pang Xiao smiled. Such a big thing happened in the Qiu clan's courtyard. It's simply sensational. Maybe it was done by mountain bandits. We have to go and take a look. If there really are mountain bandits, the South Pacifying Army is not to be trifled with. Wang Yi is right. Huzi giggled, his face full of eagerness. "Brothers, we haven't come out to stretch for a long time. We are so bored. If there's a chance for us to practice, wouldn't that be great?" It wasn't just Huzi who was looking forward to it. Everyone else was thinking the same thing. Pang Xiao couldn't help but shake his head in amusement. The young masters of the South Pacifying Army had all become very warlike. They were not afraid of spilling blood on the battlefield. Instead, they were looking forward to it. This way, Pang Xiao felt that his training was not in vain. More than 100 people got on their horses again. They lined up in a line and headed towards Bo and town along the official road. Pang Xiao rode at the front of the line. From afar, he seemed to see a small carriage with a flat head coming towards them. His eyesight was very good. From afar, he could see that the person driving the carriage was a scholar wearing a light gray robe. He was dressed very much like Mu Jinghu. When the two ministers got closer, Pang Xiao could even see their faces clearly. He couldn't help but wave his hand to stop the line. He happily went up the mountain to welcome them. Blockhead, Mu Jinghu also saw Pang Xiao. He stopped the carriage and jumped down. He said happily, "Hey, Fox." Pang Xiao laughed heartily as he jumped down from the horse's back. Then, he looked Mu Jinghu up and down. Then, he patted Mu Jinghu's shoulder and said, "I knew you wouldn't get into trouble so easily. I heard that you were kidnapped. Your wife was also threatened. They said that if you don't listen to them, they will kill you." When Mu Jinghu heard this, he couldn't hide the anxiety on his face. He said worriedly, "Is Shan Shan all right?" Sigh. I knew that the one surnamed Chiu had bad intentions. He couldn't win against Shan Shan, so he thought of kidnapping me to threaten her. He is also a man. Shan Shan is heavily pregnant. She can't be frightened. Pang Xiao looked at Mu Jinghu's anxious and honest appearance. He thought of Chiu Feishan's wholehearted actions for the Chiu family. She didn't care about Mu Jinghu's life and death. He couldn't help but feel a little desolate and sad. But after hesitating for a while, Pang Xiao didn't say this in the end. He only said kindly, "Don't worry, Boss Chiu is very good. There are many people around to serve her. She has also hired people to take care of her. Her life is very comfortable." How could Mu Jinghu not be worried? But when he cared about his wife, he would think of how Pang Xiao had asked him to protect his wife. In the end, because of Martial Uncle's interference, he missed the opportunity. When Mu Jinghu thought of this, he felt so guilty that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. "Ah, Fox, Dad, I was wrong previously. Your wife thought of the plan very well and trusted me so much. Is she all right now?" "How? How is she? Could it be that she hasn't reached the old capital?" Pang Xiao wasn't a calculative person. Moreover, he understood Mu Jinghu's character. He wouldn't go back on his words if he didn't have to. Therefore, Pang Xiao didn't blame him. He smiled and said, "Fortunately, she was able to escape. Fortunately, I arrived in time and saved her from the bandits." Although he said it casually, Mu Jinghu bit his lower lip and lowered his head when he thought of what would happen to Qin Yining if she fell into the hands of the bandits. He then bowed solemnly to Pang Xiao. "Hey, blockhead, what are you doing?" Chapter 840. How could Pang Xiao allow Mu Jinghu to bow to him? He was already very kind when he agreed to help. Pang Xiao knew that what he was asking for was not a simple matter. When had Mu Jinghu ever helped him without risking his life? Besides, he could not blame Mu Jinghu for what happened this time. He was grateful to Mu Jinghu. How could he blame him? Mu Jinghu's arm was held tightly by Pang Xiao's large hands. He had no choice but to stop. Looking at Pang Xiao's sincere eyes, Mu Jinghu felt even more guilty and his face turned red. Pang Xiao was afraid that Mu Jinghu would feel uncomfortable, so he asked about the incident at the Chiu family's residence in Bowen Town. Mu Jinghu's stiffness and awkwardness eased a little. Thinking about what happened that day, he said with righteous indignation, "The Chiu family is too despicable. They actually took advantage of others. That day, my martial uncle predicted that there would be a death sentence in our lives. You know how I entered the sect, so I had no choice but to stay behind to protect martial uncle. That delayed the time when we left the city with the Qin clan. Later, I decided to take martial uncle with me and chase after them overnight. In the end, we saw a ground full of corpses. Just as we were about to check, the Chiu family suddenly appeared and captured both Martial Uncle and me. I originally had the ability to escape with Martial Uncle, but Martial Uncle fell into their trap. I could not leave her behind and escape by myself, so I had no choice but to surrender. During that time in the Chiu family, they were humiliating us. They're really trying their best to humiliate me, but I can't do anything before I can guarantee Martial Uncle's safety. Fortunately, I rescued Martial Uncle later. Martial Uncle was resourceful and thought of an excellent way to deal with the Chiu family. Pang Xiao raised his eyebrows. I heard that the Chiu family's residence caught fire and the entire residence was burned down. What happened to the people inside? They were all burned to death. My Martial Uncle concocted a bewitching drug. Later, I set fire to their residence, and most likely everyone died. When Mu Jinghu said this, he did not seem to have any psychological burden. He had always been like this. Although he was loyal and trustworthy, that was only for the people he cared about. The environment he grew up in had taught him to have a transcendent temperament. It could be said that the important people he was not familiar with were similar to ants in his eyes. Although Mu Jinghu was not a murderous demon and would not kill people for fun, he was still capable of killing an entire family just because they were kidnapped. Perhaps Mu Jinghu would even think that it was a matter of course and that it was an eye for an eye. Thinking of this, Pang Xiao did not instill his ideas into Mu Jinghu's head. Everyone was different, and he could not use his own standards to measure Mu Jinghu. Pang Xiao changed the topic and asked, "So, under the command of your Martial Uncle, you destroyed the Chiu family's courtyard and escaped with her?" "That's right." Mu Jinghu seemed to have just remembered something and pointed at the horse carriage behind them. "My Martial Uncle is in the carriage." Pang Xiao looked at the horse carriage, and the murderous intent in his heart was almost uncontrollable. In the past, when he worked with Tianjizi, Pang Xiao did not have any feelings towards her, but was annoyed by her judgments. Even when he was annoyed, he did not have to kill her to stop. That was why he could maintain an attitude of indifference. However, Tianjizi was against Qin Yining and even wanted to kill Qin Yining because of her judgments. From the corner of his eye, Pang Xiao saw the tense Mu Jinghu beside him and loosened his clenched fists. Even if it was for Mu Jinghu's sake, he could not make a move now. Ever since the horse carriage stopped, Tianjizi did not dare to show her face. When she heard Mu Jinghu say that she was retreating, Tianjizi wanted to poke him in the head a few times. However, after waiting for a while and seeing that Pang Xiao did not come up to strangle her, Tianjizi wiped the sweat on her forehead and straightened her expression. She lifted the curtains and leaned out of the horse carriage while maintaining an immortal posture. Her round body nimbly jumped off the horse carriage, patted her clothes, and clasped her hands. "Blessed, immeasurable, celestial, venerable, how has Wang Yi been doing?" Pang Xiao smiled. "This king is doing very well. Thank you for your concern, celestial venerable." "Celestial venerable, I haven't seen you for a long time, but you are still so energetic. I think Celestial Venerable is the only one in this world who can learn Buddhism and cultivate Taoism at the same time. You're truly skilled in both Taoism and Buddhism, transcending the mortal world and surpassing immortals." "You flatter me, Wang Yi. I am flattered. My talent is average, and it is all thanks to my peers," Tianjizi said modestly. Mu Jinghu was speechless. He silently looked away, not wanting to admit that this person was his Martial Uncle. Pang Xiao narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Since it is safe, let's take a short rest and return to the old capital." "All right, there is no need." Mu Jinghu's and Tianjizi's voices sounded at the same time. Mu Jinghu agreed naturally, while Tianjizi objected vehemently. Mu Jinghu looked at Tianjizi in surprise. "Martial Uncle, where do you want to go if you don't return to the old capital?" Tianjizi said meaningfully, "We have our own places to go. We will not go to the old capital for the time being." "No, I still have to go back to see Shan Shan. Shan Shan is pregnant, and she must have been scared out of her wits this time. I have to go back and accompany her." Martial Uncle has not seen Shan Shan for a long time. Why don't we go back together? Tian Jizi observed Pang Zhao's expression from the corner of her eye and cursed Mu Jinghu in her heart for being so stubborn. She wanted to go back to the old capital with Pang Xiao. What if he suddenly decided to assassinate her on the way back? Even if Pang Xiao cared about Mu Jinghu's feelings, he would not go so far as to ban her because of his friend's feelings, right? No, of course it is not good. Tian Jizi pinched her fingers together and said, I have not passed that calamity, and the location is not auspicious. I cannot go to the old capital. But didn't you say that as long as I am by your side, the calamity will be resolved? Mu Jinghu asked suspiciously. Tian Jizi thought of the words she had said to him that day, and the corners of her lips twitched. That was then, and this is now. How can that be the same as now? Mu Jinghu could tell that Tian Jizi was looking for all kinds of reasons not to go to the old capital, or rather, she did not want to go with Pang Xiao. Mu Jinghu felt a little uncomfortable. Tian Jizi wanted to kill off the Qin clan, but Pang Xiao did not kill Tian Jizi even though he valued the Qin clan. Mu Jinghu knew that he had a part to play in this, and he was already very touched. Tian Jizi was not calculative, but she was being petty. No, I just want to go back and accompany Shan Shan. If Martial Uncle wants to go alone, wouldn't you be deliberately letting your son face danger alone? Anyway, you said that as long as I follow and protect you, everything will be fine. Isn't it the same where you go? Tian Jizi was speechless for a moment, and she regretted fooling him with the words that Mu Jinghu would be able to resolve the crisis if he stayed by her side. Pang Xiao watched the commotion for a while and said, Fairy, you haven't been to the old capital for a long time, right? The customs of the old capital have not changed, and you and my wife are old acquaintances, so this is a good time to meet and chat. Tian Jizi's expression changed a few times. She felt a toothache at the mention of Qin eating. How many people had she plotted against, and how many things had she planned? In the past, she had been invincible and had never tasted defeat, but every time she encountered Qin eating, things would develop in an unpredictable direction, and Tian Jizi could not grasp the direction no matter how hard she tried. Qin eating was really a huge variable, and it was the same for all of them. She wanted to kill Qin eating and get everything back on track, but she never had the chance. Tian Jizi was also very self-aware that she might not have the chance in the future. Tian Jizi looked around hesitantly. Pang Zhao's eyes were burning. Mu Jinghu's expression was stubborn, and behind them were the cavalrymen who were standing straight and holding their horses. She silently estimated the feasibility of escaping, and finally nodded in resignation, and said in a reserved and upright manner, All right. Pang Xiao smiled. Although his smile was very kind, Tian Jizi felt that it was full of sarcasm. Mu Jinghu nodded, and just as he opened his mouth to speak, his expression suddenly turned cold. Pang Xiao frowned at the same time and walked toward the slope behind them. Mu Jinghu was like a white crane flying across the lake, and after a few leaps, he arrived at the back of the slope at lightning speed and forced a person out of the bushes. That person was dressed in short brown clothes, and his hair was messy. His face was covered with a piece of cloth, and only his eyebrows and eyes were exposed. Pang Xiao and Mu Jinghu could see that this person's eyes were sharp, his footsteps were light, and his qi and blood were protruding. He should be a strong expert. Who are you? That person turned and fled. Mu Jinghu's expression was stern, and he chased after him. Pang Xiao turned back and asked Huzi to keep an eye on Tian Jizi and led the cavalrymen to gallop up. The horses' hooves kicked up dust, and everyone shouted and surrounded Mu Jinghu and the stalker in a circle. In this way, the stalker could not escape even if he had wings. Mu Jinghu was afraid that the stalker was sent by the Qiu family, and he did not show any mercy. The other party's martial arts skills were also beyond Mu Jinghu's expectations. The two exchanged blows, and their bodies were as fast as lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged a few moves. Pang Xiao sat upright on the horse, watching intently. If Mu Jinghu was not around, he would not be able to catch the spies. However, Mu Jinghu was powerful, and the stalker was no match for Mu Jinghu. He was kicked in the chest by Mu Jinghu and flew out. Pang Zhao's subordinates, the South Pacifying Army, had long been itching to fight. They rushed forward like a tide, and with Mu Jinghu's help, they tied up the man effortlessly. When the man's mask was removed, what came into view was an ordinary face, and his complexion was slightly sallow. Mu Jinghu turned back to look at Pang Zhao. Pang Zhao walked in front of the man and sized him up. "Watch him carefully. We will go back and interrogate him." "Yes." The surrounding people responded like a tide. The man who was tied up kept twisting, his eyes full of stubbornness. When he looked at Mu Jinghu, he seemed to be at a loss for words. If he did not remove his disguise, Mu Jinghu and Pang Zhao would be able to recognize him. He was shopkeeper Liu, who was arranged by Qiu Feishan to follow Pang Zhao and size up the situation. Unfortunately, he was afraid that he would be exposed and cause trouble for Qiu Feishan, so he removed his disguise. If he did not disguise himself, Mu Jinghu might not catch him, and he could find another reason to stay alive. He could say that Madame was worried about Master, and Mu Jinghu would definitely be soft-hearted. But now, shopkeeper Liu could only grit his teeth and bear with it. Pang Zhao turned back and patted Mu Jinghu's shoulder with a smile. "Luckily you are here, otherwise this man would have escaped." Chapter 841. Shopkeeper Liu was extremely depressed. Looking at Mu Jinghu and Pang Zhao politely exchanging greetings, his heart was filled with unspeakable bitterness. If Mu Jinghu knew that the person he had arrested was him, who knew what he would think? Pang Zhao ordered people to tie up shopkeeper Liu, intending to bring him back to the old capital to interrogate him. Looking back at Tianjizi, Pang Zhao's phoenix eyes flashed. "Let's rest for today and set off for the old capital tomorrow." Tianjizi could only nod gloomily. The next morning, Pang Zhao led the team and set off. Mu Jinghu and Tianjizi naturally went together. As for the case in Bowen town, it was no longer Pang Zhao's business. Pang Zhao was afraid that Qin Yining would miss it, so he ordered people to rush back to deliver the letter. At this time, Qin Yining was anxiously and happily rushing to Qin Manor. Because the distance was close, Qin Yining did not need anyone to prepare a carriage. He jogged all the way out. Bing Tang was panting as he ran. "Wang Fei, slow down. Watch your steps." Qin Yining did not listen. He left Bing Tang, Qiu Lu, and the others far behind. Only Ji Yun could keep up. When they arrived at the gate of Qin Fu, the doorman had already received orders. He smiled and bowed, his words like pearls. "Greetings to Wang Fei. Qin Fu Foreign has brought the two young masters here. They are currently in Ci Shao Garden. De Foreign has ordered this lowly one to stand guard here. When Wang Fei arrives, just go to Ci Shao Garden." "Understood." Qin Yining did not stop. He ran to Ci Shao Garden as soon as he entered. Ji Yun carefully guarded at the side. Seeing Qin Yining so anxious, she felt sad. The two young masters left more than 5 months ago. In the blink of an eye, they were already 1 year and 8 months old. At this age, they could speak and call for their mother. However, whether it was Wang Yi or Wang Fei, they had never been called that. Wang Fei's life was too hard. "Princess Consort, please slow down. Stop and rest for a while. We'll reach Ci Shao Garden soon. Let's walk slowly." Qin Yining was panting slightly. Hearing Ji Yun's advice, he stopped running but walked quickly. He walked all the way to Ci Shao Garden. He passed through the hall and walked along the bluestone brick path to the main house. The maidservant standing in front of the house immediately replied, "Fourth aunt is back." "Fourth." A maidservant lifted Qin Yining and walked into the house. Qin Yining rushed straight through the door. She bypassed the hollowed-out screen with carved magpies on branches and suddenly stopped in her tracks. Old Madame and Madame Zheng were sitting on the arhut bed next to the window, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them straightened their legs and blocked the two children inside. The two children were wearing identical red silk jackets. The slightly bigger one was crawling around, while the thinner one was quietly fiddling with the 9 rings. Qin Yining stood there in a daze, looking at the 2 children almost greedily. The sturdy one was the younger brother, Han Ge. He had been lively since he was young. The quiet one was the older brother, Zhao Ge. He was born thinner than his younger brother and was more obedient. She couldn't tell when they were still in swaddling clothes. Now that the children had grown up, she could see that other than their eyes, they looked like Pang Xiao. Zhao Ge was more obedient. The small red mole between his eyebrows made him look more charming. He looked like a beautiful little girl. But Zhao Ge was a very naughty boy. Seeing Qin Yining come in and stare blankly at the children without approaching, everyone in the house laughed. Madame Zheng smiled and said, "Sister Yi, come here quickly." Qin Yining was so nervous that his hands were sweating. He walked over stiffly and bowed to everyone before looking nervously at Madame Zheng. Madame Zheng reached out with a smile and scooped up Zhao Ge, who was crawling around and making whooshing sounds. Zhao Ge, who had been interrupted, said in dissatisfaction, "Great-grandmother, what are you doing?" The child's voice was cute. His words were clear and full of confidence. His pair of lively almond eyes turned and fell on Qin Yining's face. Qin Yining anxiously took a step forward. Zhao Ge buried his face in Madame Zheng's arms and secretly looked at Qin Yining. Qin Yining's heart was about to break. His eyes were hot and tears almost fell. Zhao Ge threw away the 9 rings and stood up on the arhat bed. He took 2 steps on the bed with his short legs and curiously tilted his head to look at Qin Yining. Qin Yining nervously clutched his sleeves. Zhao Ge's eyes flashed. He pursed his small lips and asked seriously, "Nyang Qin?" Qin Yining repeatedly nodded. He held back his tears and smiled. "Yes, I am Nyang Qin." How did Zhao Ge recognize Nyang Qin? "Zhao Ge, look at the painting." Zhao Ge said seriously. Madame Zheng explained, "I specially had your second cousin-in-law draw a portrait of you for the children to recognize." "Great-grandmother, thank you very much." Qin Yining finally couldn't hold back his tears and trickled down. Zhao Ge and Han Ge seemed to be surprised that adults could cry. Zhao Ge and Han Ge were stunned. Zhao Ge stretched out his hands. "Don't cry." Han Ge also crawled out from Madame Zheng's arms. As if he was comparing himself with his older brother, he nimbly said, "Nyang Qin, don't cry. Nyang Qin, have some candy." As he spoke, he reached into Madame Zheng's arms. It was obvious that he was very familiar with where the candy was hidden. Qin Yining choked with sobs as he strode forward. He stretched out his arms and pulled the 2 children into his embrace. Her heart, which had been in suspense for a long time, finally relaxed. Although her children weren't familiar with her, they still knew to call her Nyang Qin. Qin Yining looked gratefully at Madame Zheng. "Great-grandmother, thank you very much. If it wasn't for your good teaching, the children wouldn't recognize me." The scene in front of them made old Madame, the Sun Clan, and a second foreign couldn't help but feel sad and cry. Zhao Ge and Han Ge smelled Qin Yining's scent and seemed to find it familiar. They didn't resist at all and even crawled into Qin Yining's arms. Han Ge was even more curious and grabbed Qin Yining's long hair. "Nyang Qin, did you buy a lot of snack for Han Ge?" Madame Zheng said, "I taught these 2 little fellows to call Nyang Qin. Zhao Ge is still all right and has a more obedient temperament. But Han Ge, this little mischievous rascal, chased after me all day and asked me all sorts of questions, asking me where Nyang Qin went. So I told them that you went to the capital to do business and came back to bring some snacks for them." Qin Yining smiled and nodded in understanding. "Of course I brought snacks. It's just that the snacks are too sweet, so Zhao Ge and Han Ge can only eat less. Otherwise, there will be insects biting their teeth." Han Ge was a little dissatisfied. Han Ge can eat, but insects won't bite. Zhao Ge said concisely, "Insects will bite." Han Ge said to his older brother in dissatisfaction, "Insects won't bite, so we can eat and eat snacks." "They will bite." "Great-grandmother." The older brother, who was a little clumsy with his words, anxiously turned to Madame Zheng for help. Madame Zheng smiled and patted Zhao Gu'er's head. Zhao Gu'er is right. The two children seriously discussed whether insects would bite or not, and Qin Yining's heart melted. At this moment, she hated that she couldn't immediately create a mountain of snacks. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to make up for her absence for the past 14 months. However, Madame Zheng taught the children very well, and as a mother, she couldn't break the rules. When the Sun Clan saw this, they smiled and said, "These two little ones are very clever and smart. They know how to say mother, great-grandmother, and maternal grandmother. I think these children take after you and Wang Yi. They are especially smart." Old Madame was getting on in age. Even if she didn't like Qin Yining, she was very fond of the two soft and white little dumplings. At this moment, she said gratefully, "It's all thanks to in-law's good teaching. It's really been hard on you these days. Don't mention it. We're all family. There's no need to mention hard work." Madame Zheng smiled and gave Qin Yining her seat. Qin Yining didn't stand on ceremony anymore. She sat sideways on the edge of the Arhut bed and hugged the two children as she whispered to them, "Zhao Gu'er, mother, it smells good." Han Gu'er, mother, you look better than the painting. Zhao Gu'er agreed. "It looks good." Han Gu'er hugged Qin Yining and smeared saliva on her face. "Mother, kiss, kiss." Qin Yining hugged the children and kissed them here and there. She felt that this was the most satisfying thing in the world. Old Madame ordered the two daughters-in-law to prepare the meal. The Sun Clan and Second Madame accepted the order and withdrew. Madame Zheng smiled and asked Qin Yining, "Sister Yi, do you plan to bring the two brothers back to the prince's residence?" Qin Yining hesitated for a moment and said, "I do want to bring them back, but they've always been by your side. I'm afraid that they won't be used to taking them away for a while. How about I stay at home for a few days and familiarize myself with the children first?" "That's good too." Madame Zheng said, "Stay for a few days first and let old Madame, your mother, and the children have a good time. I'll accompany you back to the prince's residence. I'll go back after I send them off." "Many thanks, maternal grandmother." Qin Yining was very grateful. Madame Zheng took good care of the two children. It was summer, but the children didn't get heat rashes or mosquito bites. Furthermore, they were so fair and cute. This was all thanks to Madame Zheng. The family ate a sumptuous banquet. During the banquet, Qin Yining held Brother Zhao's and Brother Han's hands and led them to greet people one by one. Brother Zhao was smart and quiet, and he had an excellent memory. He could remember everything that was taught once, and it was the same for the people that he met. However, he didn't speak as well as his younger brother. His childish voice often spoke very short words, but his expression was very serious. Brother Han, on the other hand, spoke smoothly and was mischievous. When he saw an ant hole, he would pee in it. However, when he was mischievous, he looked so adorable that people couldn't bear to blame him. With these two babies, the haze that shrouded the family Qin dissipated. Perhaps it was the nature of mother and son, but when night came, Qin Yining was already very familiar with the two children. She personally took care of the children and didn't ask others to help her. She bathed the children, changed their clothes, and dried their hair. Then, she hugged them into the green muslin cabinet to lie down and took out a cattail leaf fan to gently fan them. The children seemed to be very excited to see Qin Yining. They refused to sleep in the middle of the night and played on Qin Yining's body. Brother Han especially liked to hug Qin Yining's neck and talk to her. In the middle of the night, when the children were tired from playing, Qin Yining took a thin blanket and covered them with it. She gently fanned them and coaxed them to sleep. When Bing Tang, Ji Yun, and the others saw Qin Yining like this, they were relieved. They left Xiao Lu alone for the night, and the others also went to rest. The night passed without a word. Chapter 842. The smile on Qin Yining's face did not change. He smiled and said, "Brother Zhao, Brother Han, your great-grandmother, maternal great-grandfather, and grandmother are here. Did our Brother Zhao and Brother Han miss your great-grandmother?" Brother Zhao nodded seriously and said in a childish voice, "Great-grandmother, we missed her. We missed her. Great-grandmother knows martial arts. Ha ha! Brother Han excitedly performed a round of punches. His small arms and short legs actually looked like they were moving. Qin Yining was surprised. Did Brother Han learn this from great-grandmother? The two children nodded at the same time. Qin Yining smiled and instructed Ji Yun to get the clothes the two children would wear outside. Today, the two children wore light yellow silk jackets and small golden locks around their necks. Qin Yining was also wearing light yellow jackets. He held one child in each hand and bent down to match the two children's speed. As he walked, he told them the names of the flowers and plants they saw and the small insects that jumped in the grass. Madame Ma could not wait and quickly walked into the courtyard. When she saw the mother and children, she could not help but smile. The mother and children were too cute together, like a nest of fluffy ducklings. "Io, my dearest, Brother Zhao, Brother Han, quickly come and give your great-grandmother a kiss." Madame Ma quickly rushed over. Brother Zhao and Brother Han immediately walked over with their short legs and hugged Madame Ma tightly. They said in unison, "Great-grandmother." Yes, Madame Ma happily kissed them here and there. Qin Yining walked in front and smiled. "Grandmother." Madame Ma saw that Qin Yining was smiling like a flower, and his complexion was particularly good. She could not help but tease him. "Now that you've seen your two precious children, are your worries gone?" "That's right. All the unhappiness will pass." Qin Yining smiled and squatted down to pat the children's heads. "Mother, mother," the two children said in unison. One spoke slowly, while the other was full of energy. Qin Yining's heart melted into a puddle of water. Ma Shi happily held Han Gu-er's hand, while Qin Yining held Zhao Gu-er's small hand. Both of them turned sideways, matching the children's height and speed as they slowly walked forward. Brother Zhao had a quiet personality, so he walked side by side with Qin Yining. Brother Han, on the other hand, was like a little calf. He pulled Madame Ma's hand and pulled her forward with all his might. He even urged in a childish voice, "Hurry up, great-grandmother, hurry up." Madame Ma agreed with an okay, and said to Qin Yining, "Brother Han's temperament is exactly the same as Dai Fu's when he was young. You don't know, but when Dai Fu was young, he could do all kind of tricks. He peed in his grandfather's tobacco, stole his grandfather's tea leaves, and even added sand into it. When he was older, it was common for him to climb up the roof and tear down the tiles." Qin Yining laughed when he heard this. "Isn't this kid the same? Yesterday, when he saw an ant hole, he deliberately peed in it." Madame Ma couldn't help but laugh out loud. Qin Yining bent down and picked up Zhao Ge. The child was obedient and quiet. He found a comfortable angle to lean on Qin Yining's shoulder, and his small hand even grabbed Qin Yining's long hair. His trusting and dependent appearance made Qin Yining like him so much that he kissed the top of his head. They went all the way to Ci Shao Garden. When they entered the house, they saw the Yao clan sitting on the side, chatting with the old Madame Zheng, and the Sun clan. Madame Zheng smiled and said, "I'm very grateful that Madame Zheng treats Sister Yi so well. I'm usually in southern Yin and rarely have the chance to come back. A few days ago, something happened to the family Qin, and I was very anxious. However, I was thousands of miles away and couldn't do anything. Thanks to Madame Zheng's benevolence and righteousness, you helped the family Qin a lot. I still have to thank you." Madame Zheng had been the wife of the Dayan Duke Ding for so many years. Even if the family had declined, her graceful bearing was still there. When she spoke, her voice was neither high nor low, and her attitude was gentle and warm. She said that there was something that didn't exist and gave a soft slap to the Yao clan's face. Her sarcasm made the Yao clan feel embarrassed, and their faces became hot. The Yao clan suppressed their anger, and their voice was a bit sharp. "Madame Zheng, you don't have to thank me. The Qin clan is also very outstanding. As expected of a girl raised in the Qin manner, she has excellent rules and has never offended her mother-in-law. She also takes care of everything in the prince's residence. She has to take care of both big and small matters. As the mistress, I often can't get involved." Qin Yining never grew up in the Qin manner. When she said this, She was scolding Qin Yining for being unruly, for offending her mother-in-law, and for taking away her authority as the steward. Ever since the last time the family Qin was driven out, the Sun clan already disliked the Yao clan. Now that they heard that she dared to be sarcastic when she came to visit, they couldn't hold back their anger. Just as they were about to flare up, Madame Zheng beat them to it. Madame Zheng said, "Many thanks for the praise, Madame Zheng. As the princess consort, Sister Yi is just doing her duty. In the future, you should beat her more. You should teach her a lesson in front of others and mock her more behind others to prevent her from becoming arrogant." The Yao clan was so angry that they almost fell backwards. The Sun clan was secretly pleased and laughed. The Dowager Duchess took a sip of the honey water, as if she was trying to suppress the smile on the corner of her mouth. The second madam felt awkward as she watched from the side. After all, they were in-laws. If they really quarreled, the one who would be in trouble would be Qin Yining. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a figure walking by the door. She smiled and said, "Aren't they here now?" Everyone's attention was diverted, and they all looked towards the door. Qin Yining and Madame Ma were leading the children into the room. Although they heard half of the conversation, they could only pretend that they didn't hear it now. When the two sides met, they were naturally polite and greeted each other. The Yao clan was suppressing their anger, but they still had a smile on their face as they sized up Brother Zhao and Brother Han. These two children are fair and cute, but they resemble their mother more than their father. The Yao clan had always been suspicious of the twins' bloodline. They had even poisoned Qin Yining with safflower. Now that they were angry and stubborn, they naturally chose to look at the two children who resembled Qin Yining. For example, their almond-shaped eyes that were very similar to Qin Yining's. However, if they said that the children didn't resemble Pang Xiao, they would be lying through their teeth. Although the children's eyes resembled Qin Yining's, their facial features resembled Pang Xiao's more. Anyone who saw them would be able to tell that they were Pang Xiao's sons at first glance. The Yao clan's behavior made Madame Ma very embarrassed. However, there were too many people, and she couldn't discipline them in person. She could only smile apologetically at the Sun clan and Madame Zheng. Then, she said, "Are you presbyopia?" The two children looked so much like Dai Fu when he was young, especially Brother Han's personality. "I think you should bring a mirror with you next time you go out, in case you make a mistake." The Yao clan's faces turned red when they heard their birth mother's words. At this time, Madame Zheng and the Sun clan were even more certain that Qin Yining's days in the prince's residence would be ruined by the Yao clan. Madame Zheng thought for a while and then took Madame Ma's hand. She smiled and said, "Elder sister, it's not easy for me to come here. I don't know when I'll be able to come again. I miss the children and want them to stay with me for a while. Sister E can't be separated from the children, so I'll let Sister E stay for a few days. What do you think?" Madame Ma knew clearly that Madame Zheng couldn't stand the Yao clan's behavior and was afraid that Qin Yining would be wronged. She was tactfully asking Qin Yining to go back to his mother's home. Madame Ma was very anxious and angry at the Yao clan. It was fine if they were embarrassed at home, but she didn't expect them to be full of thorns when they went out. But to be honest, which family's daughter wasn't the treasure of their parents before she got married? Sister E was a good child. As parents, who could bear to see their child being wronged? Sister Yi's father was no longer around. Otherwise, she would probably teach the son-in-law well. Now, the family had no other choice but to let Sister E come home and stay away from the Yao clan. Madame Ma sighed and said, "Well, he can also accompany you more. It just so happens that the prince's residence is very close. I want to see the two little guys, so I'll come and see them." She turned to look at the old madam and said with a smile, "Elder sister, don't find me annoying when the time comes." The old madam was old. Qin Huayuan's matter was a blow to her, and her health was not as good as before. Later, although she found out that Qin Huayuan was not dead, her body was damaged, and she was a little tired at this time. She forced herself to be energetic and said with a smile, "In-law, you don't have to be so polite. Our two families are one family. You are welcome to come at any time. Why would I be annoyed?" In this way, before Qin Yining said anything, The idea of her returning to the Qin manor for a short stay was decided. Qin Yining thought of Qiu Feishan, who was staying in the prince's residence for a short time. He turned to the old madam, the Sun Clan, and Madame Zheng, and said, "The bride of Wang Ye's good friend, young Master Mu, is now pregnant and will give birth in 2 or 3 months. I get along very well with her. Because young Master Mu went out, I asked Mrs. Mu to stay in the prince's residence for a short time. Now that I'm back to live, it's not good to leave her out, so I want to invite her to come with me." The Sun Clan said with a smile, "Young Master Mu also protected our family in the past. I didn't expect him to be married and soon to be a father. I think it's good to let Mrs. Mu come home. I'll find 2 knowledgeable women to take care of her. We can consider it as repaying young Master Mu." The old madam couldn't remember who Mu Jinghu was, so she asked Mammy Chin next to her. Mammy Chin whispered a few words in the old madam's ear. Only then did she remember and said with a smile, "So it's his wife. It's good to invite her over. Our family is so big. We can't do without her courtyard. It'll be more lively if the family lives together." In this way, Qin Yining went to invite Qiu Feishan. Originally, he was afraid that Qiu Feishan wouldn't be willing to come. He didn't expect Qiu Feishan to agree. The scenery in the prince's residence is very good. I've long wanted to see it. When she was brought to the Qin manor and saw Brother Zhao and Brother Han, Qiu Feishan was very envious. Qin Yining taught the children how to greet people. "This is Mrs. Mu. You have to call her Aunt Mu." Brother Zhao said in a childish voice, "Hello, Aunt Mu." Just like his older brother, Brother Han shouted, "Hello, Auntie Mu." After saying that, he tilted his head and looked up at Qiu Feishan. Aunt Mu is also good-looking. Aunt Mu is rounder than Yang Qin. Qin Yining didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little brother lives in your Aunt Mu's belly, so Aunt Mu looks round now. Little brother? Brother Zhao curiously walked closer and looked up at Qiu Feishan's belly. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.